Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Our program will begin shortly. Please welcome President of Hope Program Operations, Lance Triggs.
I hope you guys are as excited as I am. We got people in the house. How's everybody doing? Doesn't it feel good? It reminds me of the Rolling Stones when they said they brought the band together again. So it feels good bringing us all back together again to celebrate this wonderful Hope Global Forum this year. We're very excited. Before I bring out our Master of Ceremonies, who's an inspiration by herself in many ways, I want to acknowledge all of our sponsors, especially our premier sponsors, because without our premier sponsors, we're not having this type of event. I want you to know that this event, for the first time, is going to be done in person and virtual around the world. And our goal is to have 1 million viewers watching over the next 3 days. Can I get a round of applause for that? First in history. So I want to thank Amazon as a premier sponsor, Experian as a premier sponsor, and Truist. I got to stop them and show some love for Truist. I see Allison Robinson and Kimberly Dorsett and the team. Under their leadership, we're growing in ways that, even I didn't fathom 29 years ago. And so the fact that we are going to be opening 50 locations throughout the United States with Truist being supported by 1,000 bank branches to provide financial wellness to people in our community is very exciting. And so I want to give a shout out to Truist and the Truist family. And then last but not least, Wells Fargo. I want to give them a big shout out because Wells Fargo, going back to the very beginning of these global forums, was our founding Hope Global Forum sponsor. And so thank you, Darlene Goins and Bill Daly and the team. So we really appreciate that. As I introduced to you a wonderful person, but also a person that's been serving as Masters of Ceremony for many years with Operation Hope, I have to just take a moment to brag about how she has inspired, my daughter, Evan Robinson, who recently was nominated as an Emmy for a documentary that she did with Ambassador Andrew Young on the 60th anniversary of St. Augustine. And so Maggie was such an inspiration in her role as a journalist. And so, Maggie being an award-winning broadcaster, she's been in broadcasting for over 49 years. She was born and raised in the great state of Kansas, which is where my people are from, Fort Scott, Kansas. And she attended the University of Kansas, go Jayhawks. And that's where she majored in radio and TV and film. She began her career as a sports anchor for KU Sports Network, and she was also the first woman sports anchor in television in Wichita, Kansas, St. Louis, Missouri, and Washington, D.C. Now, some of her career highlights include Squad Room Secretary on Homicide Life, or the 3 seasons bit parts in movies Hairspray. How many of y'all remember Hairspray? And Guarding Tess. She was also a producer for the 2006, I didn't know she had this in her game, 2006 Grammy Awards, which is amazing. And she was also the host of Red Cross Radio, which aided the federal government during the time of Hurricane Katrina, really responsible helping the victims of Katrina. And she also worked as a producer at the World War II Memorial Dedication and the 2009 Obama Inauguration Lincoln Memorial Concert. Big deal. And then she also was the host and executive producer for the MAGGIE LINTON show. And you can see that show. It's a 2-hour weekday talk show on Sirius XM, Urban View. And her guests include the New York Times bestselling authors, and plus stars in sports, entertainment, and politics. Now at present, she is a traffic and weather reporter for iHeartRadio in Baltimore and DC, and president of Linton Media and Finance, and a licensed life insurance broker with First Financial Security. She also has a podcast in development called The Shared Path. So please join me with a loud round of applause for not only a great friend, a wonderful spirit, and a sister from another mister to me, the great Maggie Linton.
Thank you. It sounds like I couldn't keep a job, huh? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2021 edition of the Hope Global Forum annual meeting. It's so good to see so many of you out here in person, and I know there are hundreds of thousands of you watching around the world. The last time we were together in the Hyatt Regency Atlanta was in May of 2019. So much has changed since then, and we're going to talk about it all. So let's not waste any time and let's get started. At last year's all-virtual forum, Shopify President Harley Finkelstein and Operation Hope CEO John Hope Bryant announced an incredible commitment in the wake of the social justice reckoning stirred by the murder of George Floyd. Shopify and Hope joined together on a 10-year initiative to launch 1 million new Black businesses by 2030. John had the opportunity to chat with Harley a few days ago, and we're going to share some of that conversation with you. You can view the entire conversation on the Hope Global Forum app, and following Harley and John, we're going to see some of the incredible entrepreneurs from 1MBB competing in our first pitch competition.
One MBB to create 1 million new Black businesses by 2030.
Having a program like 1MBB is awesome. It is a great asset to the African American community.
The Operation Hope experience for me was unlike any other program I've been a part of, primarily because it was for us and it was by us. I came into this not fully knowing where my business was gonna go or not having a full vision or plan for my business, and I came out on the other side of it with a easily 5-year game plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shopify President Harley Finkelstein and Operation Hope founder and CEO John Hope Bryant.
Hi, it's John Hope Bryant, founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Operation Hope. Operation Hope is the largest nonprofit financial literacy and financial inclusion organization in North America. We're also the gathering for the most prominent leaders in the world for the empowerment of the poor, the struggling class, and the struggling middle class every year around this time. It's called our Hope Global Forum annual meeting 2021. The theme this year is Meeting the Moment, which really describes my guest today extraordinarily well. I'm also an entrepreneur, which me and Harley share a passion for. So without further ado, I want to formally recognize somebody who's become a friend and not just a partner. Somebody who I think is extraordinarily cool, is authentic. So what you see is what you get. And Harley, combined with our other friends at Shopify, Toby I and Toby Y, who'll explain who they are maybe when he's describing a little bit about Shopify, and they're up from nothing story themselves. It's pretty incredible. By the way, the wealthiest company in Canada now, up from nothing at Shopify. But they made a $130 million commitment, a 10-year commitment last year at the forum to help Operation Hope create 1 million new Black businesses in America. And typically these announcements get made and folks just sort of drift on to something else. And unfortunately, years later, you find that very little came of whomever with the best of intentions made that commitment. It's been $50 billion of commitments, by the way, for social justice made by corporations since the unfortunate tragic death, murder, some would argue, in the middle of last year, which started the social justice reckoning of Black America in this country, which is George Floyd. But Shopify is different. They're not just about PhDs, they're about PhDs too. So he's back. Harley is back 1 year later to report with me on the results of our startup year. Harley, welcome to the Hope Global Forum.
John, it's a great honor to be here, and thank you for being a great partner, but also for being incredibly inspiring to us. We really look up to you and all your folks and what you guys are doing, and so I'm glad to be back for a second year to the Hope Global Forum.
Deeply honored. You mentioned when we were off camera that we should probably start with the results. So I'm going to honor those watching by starting there. And I want to back up from there. And I want people to know your personal story, because oftentimes people presume that folks like you and I just showed up with everything we needed to succeed. That's not the case.
Not at all the case. Yeah. And in fact, where the Venn diagram of our lives sort of overlap is that you and I have both used this thing called entrepreneurship to improve our lives, to survive, to get through really, really tough times. And so, I, as your t-shirt says, entrepreneur, right across your chest, and right across my chest is also entrepreneur, because I think that it is the great equalizer. Before we get into sort of how we've done over the last year, let me just give a quick background, if that's okay, John.
Sure.
Yeah. So about just over a year ago, we met at an event, actually, and we talked about this idea of entrepreneurship. We had sort of this shared passion for entrepreneurship, and that it really is a path to independence. We also talked about the fact that entrepreneurship can be the great equalizer, and where more independent voices make entrepreneurship and commerce better. And that's why, I've spent my entire life trying to break down barriers to entrepreneurship. But the thing that we also agreed on is that it's not evenly distributed, that not everyone has access to the ability to start a business, to scale a business. And that first conversation was, we thought, well, what would look like if we made starting a business a lot easier, a lot more accessible? And through that, we agreed that we should collaborate between Operation Hope and Shopify and work towards sort of the shared passion for helping underserved communities succeed. And to unlock what you refer to as more economic opportunity for Black business owners across the country. And we sort of what we paired on, what we combined was our software and our resources with Operation Hope's reach. And what we tried to do is see what would happen from that experiment. And that experiment is now 1 year in the making. Again, we've committed to over $100 million worth of money, but also services to help with this. And so we've now seen thousands of Operation Hope signups. We've now seen a ton of businesses being created. Just before getting ready for this chat here, I just sort of perused the list of all the entrepreneurs or the aspiring entrepreneurs that became entrepreneurs through the 1 Million Black Business Program, 1MBB. And there are two, John, that I want to sort of talk about because I think they're really interesting. There's one created by a woman named Shayna out of Baltimore, and it's called Poor Pairings. I'm just going to give a shout out to
Thank you, Shopify, for your incredible partnership. As I mentioned before, the rest of this conversation can be viewed on the Hope Global Forum's app, as well as online everywhere. As a result of the 1 Million Black Business Program, we've been able to grow and support aspiring Black entrepreneurs all over the country. We invited them to compete in a pitch competition sponsored by 25 Media and 25 Madison and Shopify. You're about to see 3 finalists compete live right here on this stage for prizes, including a $10,000 cash grand prize. Boy, has it gone up over the years. But first, let me introduce our judges. Our first judge is the Merchant Success Senior Lead for Spotify, where he and his team focus on helping high-growth, high-volume merchants scale their businesses on the Spotify platform. Please give it up for Mr. Jason Brown. All right, next we have someone who is already an Atlanta legend. We know her restaurants as Slutty Vegan, and we know her as the one and only Pinky Cole. Our next judge had an illustrious career since graduating from Wharton, including serving as personal aide to President Barack Obama. He is now senior advisor for Apollo Global Management and one heck of a basketball player, Mr. Reggie Love. Next up, we have the director at Venture Studio 25 Madison, where she invests in and builds early-stage companies. Please welcome from 25 Madison, Director of Business Development, Sarah Raffa. And our final judge needs no introduction, so please welcome the founder, chairman, and CEO of Operation Hope, Mr. John Hope Bryant. And we begin with contestant number 1. It's Megan Graham of Rise. Megan?
And before we get started, by the way, isn't she great? Before we get started, thank you, Megan. For $130 million over 10 years, we're gonna get your name right. It's Shopify, not Spotify. But I did that, by the way, myself, too.
Perfect. Well, thank you for the introduction. It's nice to meet all of you, and it's nice to be here with you all in person. My name's Megan Graham, and I am the founder and CEO of Rees. And I'm excited to be here and tell you more about Rees, but I'm also excited to tell you a little bit about myself. So I've worked in fashion and beauty marketing for the last 12 years, most recently as the beauty marketing director for Vogue. And early in my career, I was traveling all the time for work, but I could never find the hair products that I use in a travel size. So I would do this funny thing of going to the corner store, buying a little plastic container, and I'd fill it up with my Miss Jessie's and my Diva Curl. I'd throw it in a Ziploc bag, throw that in a plastic bag, throw that in my luggage, and then say a little prayer that it wouldn't leak everywhere, which, spoiler alert, it always did. And so that's why I started Rees. To me, Rees is the freedom to take care. We're making reusable, leak-proof, dishwasher-safe, travel-sized toiletry containers made of FDA-approved, earth-kind materials. So like I said, the old way, really leaky, often made of virgin plastic, not inherently reusable. But with Rees, we've re-engineered how these bottles are made. They're completely reusable, airtight, leak-proof, and we have a pre-labeling system, so there's no more playing what's in that bottle, which is not a very fun game to play. And why does this matter? Well, the toiletry container market is a $29 billion market. And most of those containers are inherently one-time use and inherently always made of virgin plastic. But we know consumers today want to pay for sustainable products, and they want to buy from companies making a positive environmental impact. Not only that, but we are here in person today. And I know Lance said that before. This is incredible. For me, it was one of the first trips I've taken since the pandemic, and getting on that Delta flight felt so good. And we know people are ready to take vacations again. We haven't launched yet, I should first say that. We haven't launched, but we still get about 400 unique views to our website every month of people who are organically searching for reusable travel bottles. So there's nothing in the market that is like ours that exists today. So like I said, we'll be launching later this year, and we were lucky enough to be part of the 2021 Sephora Accelerate. So we'll be launching in Sephora next year, and I'm so excited about that. And as a pre-launch brand, to have secured your first retailer and distributor is just an amazing feat, something I'm very proud of. The key to our success with Sephora is partnerships. So working with brands like Briogeo, Verb, or Supergoop with products that people already know, they already love, and these brands want to be part of the plastic waste solution for the beauty industry. Long term, our plan is to work with hotels. We're already working with some boutiques in New York City to be the plastic solution for the hotel space and that hospitality space. We are a small but mighty team who has been working tirelessly for the past 2 years on bringing this to life. From myself in New York to our product and supply chain team in LA, from our graphics and social team in Toronto, and our legal counsel in Miami, which is very important. And so far the press is loving us. I think that Elite Daily said it the best. Rees creates reusable travel bottles, which are a must for everyone, and I could not agree more. Thank you so much for being with me here today and virtually. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Are we doing questions or no? Okay. Yes? Okay, sorry. Okay, questions.
Hi. Talk to us about what your supply chain looks like, and if your long-term plan is to become your own co-packer and build your own manufacturing studio, or do it overseas.
Yeah, right now we are producing in China. So I like to say we're producing responsibly in China. And then we have a warehouse in Los Angeles. So we have a third-party logistics company that we work with, as well as this warehouse on the West Coast. So everything's kind of done through China and the West Coast. I think long-term, I think that's part of our partnerships plan, is really working with companies. We've already had interest from a lot of different beauty companies who are interested in packaging with Rees and really being part of that kind of circular economy when it comes to reusables.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. That was a great pitch. I'm excited to be a customer soon.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering, as you probably know, the beauty industry is very crowded. And so how do you think about building a competitive moat and keeping other customers from coming in and offering a similar product?
Sure. Well, I think so we've patented our product. The design is patented and utility patented, which is really, really key for us. But I think, to be the first in the marketplace is really important. And I think what we're doing in the beginning is really growing that brand awareness and affinity. I think also having Sephora, as a huge part of our business, someone who's believes in us from the very beginning, they're going to work with us and continue to innovate, continue to bring new products. And I think also being in the hospitality sector is really key as well. So not only for consumers, but being a solution for B2B as well.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you, Megan. And our next commentator is, our presenter is Toby Smith from, and it sounds like me, All I Do Is Cook.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Toby Smith, and I'm the founder of All I Do Is Cook. In 2015, I left Lagos, Nigeria, and moved to Texas. And 3 weeks into my stay here, I got homesick. I decided to look for food that reminded me of home. During my search for this, I realized that African flavor, African cuisine was really difficult to access outside of Africa. Also, it was inconsistent, and it was very inconvenient. So we decided to create a solution to this. All I Do Is Cook. All I Do Is Cook is changing the way African cuisine and African flavor is accessed and enjoyed all over the world. Our customers are every and anybody that wants to enjoy African flavor. We do this by sending African meals and condiments and products to doorsteps all over the US. We have quite a number of products across various markets, and these markets have a total value in Europe and America of $2 trillion. Of that value, we are looking to obtain $20 billion over the next couple of years. Currently, we operate a B2C model by shipping directly to doorsteps, and we recently just launched 2 of our products in stores in Houston. We have a pricing average order size of $114 per order with the orders that are placed online. And currently, since we started in 2019, we have shipped out over 8,000 boxes nationwide. That's totaling in $1.1 million in revenue. We have done all of this with $0 in marketing spend. As the founder, I'm bringing 7 years of experience in the food and beverage industry to the table. My co-founder, Bethany, is a French-trained chef with knowledge of productization of these African flavors. And our CTO, Margaret, is bringing years of experience in e-commerce, tech, and product to the table as well. At All I Do Is Cook, we have really, really big dreams. And one of those dreams is to IPO someday. And currently, we have built out our own manufacturing facility in Houston, Texas. And we are looking forward to doubling our revenue in the next fiscal year. With the increase in attention to African culture, music, we are looking at the fact that we want to put this solution to the inaccessibility of African flavors on the center stage. And we are here with so much demand that's been overwhelming since we started, looking for the things that we need to do to meet this demand. Thank you so much for listening to this pitch.
Well, Toby, I want to say congratulations. This it's amazing, and it's making me quite hungry. Did you bring us anything? But my main question is really around customer acquisition. You've quoted some very impressive numbers on how many people have come to the site and have purchased on your platform. Have people been coming looking for a specific dish, or you've been able to find these individuals yourself through your own networking community?
We acquire most of our customers. As I said, we haven't done a lot of marketing. We've done all of this via referrals, word of mouth. And for some reason, we haven't been doing a lot of marketing just because we know when the marketing starts, the demand is going to be super overwhelming. We just moved into our own production facility in Houston, Texas, and we've seen an increase in demand as well. We've seen an increase in meeting up to the demand that we're getting. So what we're doing right now is we're trying to reward the customers with the referrals by rewarding them for each person that they bring. People come to the website to look for various kind of meals, and with Nigerians, a niche market, and people that want to try African flavor, they don't just want to try one thing. They always want to try a variety of options, and we have those options in snacks, pastries, we have ready-to-eat meals, we have soups, and we have condiments as well that are shelf-stable, so people just get supplies that last them for like 2-3 weeks, and then that it's a repeat order because at this point in time, we've taken care of one part of their lives, which is the food aspect.
Have you found that, this is fascinating to me, have you found that African Americans or Africans or Europeans or Latin Americans or Asians, is there any one particular ethnic group that you found that have been most fascinated with trying African food, or is it pretty democratic, everybody wants it?
Yeah, everybody wants it. We have curbside pickups in Houston, Texas, and I personally go out to see people that come to pick up, and every time we have people from all demographics come, they saw this, they want to try it, they want to see what it's like, and for some very interesting reason, just because of the quality of the products, we don't have a lot of stores that have these products available on the market. So everybody sees us as that source for these products. So people try them and they become repeat customers just because they have that one product or this other product that fits into their lifestyle. Yeah. Any more questions for me?
And what's, you're doing a lot of referral, what's the relative margin on a meal?
From production to getting them to the doorsteps of the customers, we're doing 42% margin. We're looking to actually bring that up and get it better just so that, we can have a good margin, a better margin, turn more profit. Because, all since we started, we've been bootstrapped, and we've had to do the best we can with the little that we have up till date. So we're all about, increasing those margins and making sure we're maintaining topmost quality at the same time. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Toby. And now, our final contestant, it's Tamika Strange of Capable Clothing.
Hello, my name is Tamika Norris, and I am a registered nurse and the owner of Capable Clothing. Capable Clothing is an apparel company that specializes in adaptive clothing for individuals with special medical needs and individuals living with a handicap. Working exclusively in spinal cord injury for the past 10 years, I ran into many obstacles that made my job difficult. Getting a patient up and dressed in many instances could take well over 30 minutes. After finally getting a patient situated in their wheelchair, I've had many patients tell me, I've got to use the washroom. So I had to lift the patient back in the air, put them back in bed, undress them, straight cat them to empty their bladder, and start the process all over again. I thought there has to be an easier way. So in 2011, I created the Capable Denim Pant exclusively for my patients. After searching the market for a similar product, I realized there wasn't anything on the market like my pant. So I secured the utility and design patent. In recent years, many designers have jumped on the adaptive apparel bandwagon without acknowledging the medical function that must accompany these devices, these clothing. The Capable Pant is the perfect balance of fashion and function. I made the pant lower in the front, higher in the back, for comfort and patient dignity. I've removed the back pockets to reduce skin breakdown. I've added reinforced lift loops, which assist in lifting, turning, and repositioning patients, which is a back saver for your nurses and caregivers.
Wow.
I've added paracord to the zipper pulls, which gives a person lacking fine motor skills the ability to zip and unzip the pant unassisted. I've added a false front that opens large enough to straight cap using sterile technique, change adult incontinence underwear, and empty implanted medical devices.
Wow. Wow.
My first small batch, thank you. My first small batch of pants sold out at the Chicago Abilities Expo, leading to reviews such as, if we could have given an award for the most mind-blowing invention, we would have given it to Capable Clothing. I am asking for $250,000 in funding to get these pants out to the underserved community that needs it most. The apparel industry is an $805 million industry with a projected growth rate of 1.8%. The adaptive apparel industry is a $50 billion industry with a projected growth rate of 2.3%. My plan is to increase online sales, develop strategic partnerships, and sell business to business. I am asking for $250,000 in funding to get these pants out to the underserved community that needs it most. My team is ready to bridge the gap between disabled and capable. Thank you.
First, I want to say thank you so much. That was an amazing pitch.
Thank you.
My question is really about who your customer is. Is it going to be the individual, or are you seeing the hospitals? Are you seeing the nurses? Like, who are you really targeting with this product, and how are you imagining that working as you move it forward?
That is an excellent question. When I developed these pants, I realized there was a twofold problem and a twofold solution. First of all, you have the nurses that are hurting their backs. They're filing workers' compensations claims for back injury. You have, then on the other side, you have the patient who have patient dignity issues, and also the risk for falls in hospitals from being transferred several times a day. My target has been the patient thus far because the patients are going to wear the pant. But it's a twofold issue, and if you add in the skin breakdown issues, it's also more so targeted towards the patient, so that's where I started.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a very great pitch. Will this be made available to children as well?
That is definitely on my list. At the Chicago Abilities Expo, that was the #1 ask. Do you have these pants for children? I literally had parents come up to me in tears and say, we need this product. So yes, one of the next things I will do would be a children's line.
Yes, you should absolutely do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, that was great, and I love that it's built out of such a clear pain point. You're really solving a true problem, which is so important in an early business. My question is, can you talk to us a little bit about what early traction you're seeing? What do your sales look like? And then as you look forward to 2022, what metrics are you most focused on?
So thus far, I launched during a pandemic, which a lot of businesses have. But I saw a small window open during the Chicago Abilities Expo, where the city opened and the Abilities Expo says, you know what, we're gonna go forward. Great opportunity for a person with a great product, and I didn't have any pants. So I had the pants made immediately, shipped in, and so I sold out. I literally sold out. So that small test run is what I have to start with. As for traction, I'm building on social media, I'm building more clients, I'm getting more sales through my website. And as for the future, I'm patent pending on other devices as well. So I plan to just keep building the brand from a nurse's perspective.
Great, thank you.
I know we're short on time, but I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how reimbursability from the insurance companies would play into this potentially.
Yes, sir. So getting a number for FDA approval is something that I'm working on as well, and getting reimbursed, you have to get a code so that people can get reimbursement. Also working with the Veterans Administration is a huge goal for me to get these pants out to veterans that really need these pants.
Comment and question. Given that we're streaming, given that in this new world we're living in, limited audience here streaming around the world, and we're live, was so happy that when you unzipped the front that it worked. Some of you will get that later. Where does your confidence come from?
My confidence I believe in this community.
No. What is your personal, not in your product? Oh. As I look in your eyes, I see confidence and maybe self-esteem too. Where does that come from?
From God, I don't know. It's just who I am. It's just who I am. Sorry, thank you.
Wow, the judges have quite a session to deliberate, and we have a few special partners. We are going to announce some commitments to 1MBV.
And while you're doing that,
and
we've got a special guest in the house.
Yeah.
He was in this house in 1967 when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. held his last annual meeting for SCLC as he pivoted to poverty. Dr. King met here with his team in 1967, a year before that fateful day in Memphis. The last meeting of Dr. King happened here with somebody in the room today. Join me in saying hello, thank you for your service to my personal hero, civil rights leader, icon, Ambassador Andrew Young.
Always good seeing the ambassador. And we also have others who are making a commitment. Melvin Coleman, Atlanta Black Chamber of Commerce. Are you here, Melvin? Okay, well, and David Harris, Greater Georgia Black Chamber of Commerce, and Drew Louder, President, iHeartRadio Atlanta, and Chris Ray, President. Oh, here they are. All right. Thanks, guys. You're a little slow with the take, but, you know, we'll take you whenever we can get you. All right? Chris Ray, President, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And we want to thank you all. Wait a minute, there's more people coming out. I didn't get the memo on you all, but thank you very much for joining us and also for making the commitment. Would you like to say? Yes, please, go right ahead.
Finally made it on stage at the Hope Global Forum. Man, good evening. My name is Melvin Coleman. I am the Executive Director for the Atlanta Black Chambers. Our mission, the growth of competitive, profitable, and sustainable Black-owned businesses. We achieve our mission with our events, activities, and programs, which provide the necessary access to critical resources, information, and relationships for entrepreneurs and small business owners, but also it provides the exposure that they need for their business and their brand. And so I'm super excited about the Atlanta Black Chamber's commitment to the 1MBB initiative. There's enormous synergy between Operation Hope and the ABC. And so when I look at the future, wait and see the greatness that we achieve through this collaboration. Thank you.
I'm David Harris with the Greater Georgia Black Chamber of Commerce, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge up front that my very first job when I was a scholarship student at the Padea School was with Mayor Andrew Young, and had it not been for him, I probably wouldn't be here now. Things have gone pretty well all those years ago. Thank you very much. I will keep it brief. I actually have the distinction of being able to represent two 1MBB partners, that is GGBCC and Sterling Seacrest Pritchard, which is the insurance partner for the enrollees who come in and need any kind of counsel and support. I'm very proud of that because, of course, insurance undergirds risk. So when our folks take a risk, I'll be glad to be there to help to protect them. I just want to say that the reason why we are fully supportive of this program is because, in our view, the future of Black advancement is in partnership more so than patronage. And we believe that that's a vision that all stakeholders can coalesce around, and we will do our level best and a little bit more to make sure that they do. Thank y'all.
Good evening, everyone. Drew Lauder with iHeartMedia, President, and run the Atlanta market here. Also brought...
Good evening. Namon Jones, Vice President, iHeartMedia here in Atlanta.
Wanted to thank everybody, and also, you know, I wanted to give a quick little story as I'm watching these people pitching and presenting their companies. You know, I come from entrepreneurship myself, and just wanted to kind of give a round of applause to them. It's really hard to come up and do this stuff, and they just did a great job. So, but that outline, that really is the example of why we want to do this. I mean, my personal commitment to entrepreneurship, but iHeart's as well too. With our reach and being one of the largest media companies here in the country, to be able to amplify what you saw here tonight and bring the spotlight to the Black business community is very important to all of iHeart. We've launched in New York, We're in Atlanta. We're going to roll this out across the country. We're committed to 10,000 job creations or black business creations here just in Atlanta alone, and we look to grow that. So thank you all. Have a great night.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thought I was in here by myself. I'm Chris Ray, International President of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Since 1924, the men of Phi Beta Sigma have been encouraging economic development through entrepreneurship and supporting the black business in our local communities. For almost 100 years, with over 600 chapters that span the globe, we have reached over 1 billion people with our message of economic social justice. Our partnership with Operation Hope is a match made in heaven. Phi Beta Sigma has committed to helping Operation Hope meet the goal of 1 million black businesses through our national North American network. We are committed to helping level the playing field for black entrepreneurship, making sure that when someone wants to start their own business, they have the support they need so that they are not locked out of the American dream because of the color of their skin. Phi Beta Sigma men believe in the power of entrepreneurship, and we are ready to build 1 million black businesses. Let's go build. Thank you all so much.
Give everybody a round of applause again, please.
I just have a couple of announcements related to 1MBB and wanted to come up here and thank this audience and thank you all for being here and supporting these wonderful people. This is an amazing opportunity for them, and it takes a lot of courage to come up here and talk about this. 1MBB has had an amazing journey over the course of this year, and we have really focused this year on infrastructure building. And we're so excited to announce that this will not be our first pitch competition. This will be one of many pitch competitions. So we will have another pitch competition coming soon in 2022, as well as an incubator program. We're so excited to have this opportunity, and really, as Chris Ray said, from Phi Beta Sigma, to level the playing field for black entrepreneurship. So stay tuned. In just a couple of minutes, probably 30 seconds, we're going to find out who our winners are, and we'll give an opportunity for them to come back out on stage. So hang tight.
Just want to remind you all that after this evening, to be sure and be here on time tomorrow. Starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, the doors will open, and at 10 we begin the full program, and a lot of exciting people coming up, so be sure and be with us then. And then just on my own personal note, I know many of us realize we lost a great leader just a day or so ago, General Colin Powell, and please send out prayers for his family. I personally knew him, being from Kansas. He was stationed in Fort Leavenworth for twice, and my dad was his barber. So I have known him the majority of my life, or I knew him the majority of my life, and he really, this country has lost a great citizen, so please send out prayers for him and his family. Thank you. I guess we've got winners. All right, folks, it was incredible, was it not? All right. Congratulations to those amazing business owners, and now we're going to hear who the winners are. Are they coming out? Here they are.
Here they are. The moment you've been waiting for. The big check. All right, for our $10,000 winner, Megan, come on out here. Megan is our $10,000 winner. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Do you want to say a few words?
Just thank you so much for having me here, for being a part of the 1MBB. This is an incredible opportunity, and I think what you guys are doing is so important. Access to capital for Black business owners is really the most important first step. So I thank you so much, and just thank you to both of you. Your pitches were incredible, and I'm just honored to be up here with the both of you. So thank you.
All right, so go ahead and stand over
Okay.
there.
Okay. Oh my gosh, this is incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. That's right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amena Agbaje. I am the program lead for Black entrepreneurship at Shopify. I'm very excited to be here. We have a prize that we want to give away. We are giving away the... Am I doing the right thing here? Yes. Okay. We're giving away the Shopify Green Bag Winner Award, which is a full website redesign with one of our Shopify Plus partners, Parkfield Commerce. And we're giving this away to... I don't know the business name, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. All I do is cook. This is my fellow Naija boy. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My apologies.
Thank you so much to the organizers of the event. This was great. This is amazing. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm sure my team back home is super, super delighted. We are so grateful, and we can't wait to see what everybody else here is going to be up to in the next couple of months. I believe everybody here today has amazing ideas, and we can't wait to meet each other at the top. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, I believe that John Hope Bryant has something to say.
First of all, is everybody glad to get out of the house? Are you glad to get out of the house? Isn't this beautiful? Come on now, the Bible suggests be hot or be cold. If you're lukewarm, I'll spat you out. Translation, even God is not like mediocrity. Isn't this beautiful? My mother, who's in the audience, Miss Juanita Smith, has educated me, her and my aunties, on the unique needs of those who are getting older in their age. They're not old, they're just getting more mature. And those needs are different. And my mother is an amazing, dignified embodiment of young at any age. And I was thinking about her as your presentation was being made. And it strikes me the only purpose of power is to collect it so you can give it away. And I was sitting here thinking about an adventure that we created at Operation Hope called Hope Ventures, which I've never used. So today, Brian Betts, I apologize, my CFO, I've not told you about this. We're going to make a lead commitment of $50,000 against your $250,000. Wow. And we challenge other companies in this room and watching around the world, individuals who were compelled like we were compelled. That wasn't a black idea. That wasn't a white idea, an Indian idea, an Asian idea, a Latino idea. It wasn't a good idea or a bad idea. It was just a good, brilliant business idea that's untapped.
A great idea, and I also want to help as well.
Repeat that?
I said a great idea, and I also want to help her raise the $250,000 as well.
Wait a minute now.
And when we were backstage, I said, this girl is going to be a billionaire. And when I came here, I said, that's a $1 billion idea. So Slutty Vegan wants to commit $20,000 to that as well.
My God. My God. My God. Oh, my goodness.
So what we're saying is, on your way to $250,000. And as Dr. Dorothy Height told me, John, I like you because you're a dreamer with a shovel in your hands. I looked at you and you had confidence. You actually believed you were coming here not for $10,000, but for $250,000. I said you're at the wrong event.
In the name of Jesus.
But you obviously were at the right event. Your reach should exceed your grasp. So we are collectively committing at least $70,000 towards your $250,000. We can challenge other folks to match us to get to $250,000, and Hope Ventures is going to help you raise the rest of the money to the best of our ability.
I just want to say thank you so very much because I believe in this community so much. It's my heart, my patients. I believe in them. I believe in the dignity of the patients and the people who need this product. And I am eternally grateful to you all. Thank you very much. Thank you so very much.
We have already a $20,000 match from Big Dave's Cheesesteaks. Awesome.
We can get behind him, yeah. Come on. Look, and by the way, while all money is green, and we accept anybody who's legitimate and honest, who wants to support what we're doing, it should not be unsaid that Black venture capitalists made this commitment today.
Thank you so much to our judges. Thank you.
How about that, huh? See, the spirit of giving is truly in here. And I think we're really seeing some true entrepreneurs for the future. You all have a lot to be proud of. We are very honored to welcome our next guest in his first public appearance in 19 months.
Beyond powering payments for businesses big and small, and developing innovative solutions that make financial services more affordable and convenient. Speaking as a proud employee. At PayPal, it's about a strong sense of mission, vision, and purpose.
We need to make sure that our companies are a force for good, that our brands stand for more than just making money.
I think we have a purpose and a profit motive together, and I think they go hand in hand.
We care deeply about people and their ability to participate and thrive in the global economy.
We have a moral obligation to extend the new tools and the new technology to people who are underserved today, because it will make a real difference in our world, and we can do it.
Fighting to give capitalism a much-needed upgrade.
We have a mission as a company to democratize financial access, to help small businesses to drive financial wellness and financial health throughout the world.
What's more, we act on the values that define our mission.
The racial wealth gap is the same today as it was back in the 1960s, the last civil rights movement. And it's why PayPal decided to do a $530 million commitment to help Black and minority-owned businesses, not just in the short term, but over the long term as well.
Even if you step away from the money, I think the big thing what that grant did is I felt seen.
To know that
a brand and a company like PayPal actually has your back and supports you is an amazing thing.
We all live in the same community. There are a lot of cultural wars, but that doesn't absolve us from taking values-based stance and doing our part to try and help.
Creating a ripple effect of positive change in the pursuit of building a better world.
If we can help in some way create financial health around the world so that people struggle less, then I think people have the ability to listen more, think about others, and I think that can only lead to a more peaceful world and one in which we maybe understand each other more than less.
Please welcome to the stage Mr. Dan Schulman, President and CEO of PayPal, and John Hope Bryant.
So first of all, I must apologize. We are running about 25 minutes behind, but I hope that you found this evening worthwhile. We will be back on schedule first thing in the morning. You got that? I have a special relationship with Dan Schulman. You would know him as the CEO of one of the largest and most successful payment and commerce companies in the world. I would know him as a special soul. Dan and I had our first real substantive conversation in Idaho, was it? And he asked me the strangest question. In the middle of an environment where the world did not seem all that just, and before George Floyd, a year before, he said, "I don't like what I'm seeing in the world, John, and what do you think if I committed," Dan, sorry to tell your business, $50 million of my own compensation to help underserved neighborhoods? And I said, "No, I don't think you should do that." He was as shocked as you look. Who wouldn't want somebody to give them $50 million? He wasn't going to give it to me. He was going to give it to those he thought were in need. My concern was, what happens when Dan's not at PayPal anymore? What happens if something happens to Dan? And people have become accustomed to somebody giving them their dignity. What happens when you can't rely on that anymore? What happens when the next CEO doesn't have the same culture or ethos? I didn't want to discourage his giving. I wanted to encourage something that was actually sustainable. So I said, what would happen if you looked at this as part of your business? What would happen if you reimagined this and maybe did something that was embedded in the business and would last forever? Maybe it would be $25 or $50 million, maybe every year or over a period of time. The next thing I know, Dan Schulman has committed through PayPal $500+ million for the empowerment of the poor and the underserved in a mission, a sustainable mission of social justice embedded in his company. So now that whether he's there or not, whether he does another thing or not, this is now part of how the company operates. This is in the company's bones. I saw Dan again 4 months ago. And in the midst of what he's already done, he says, what are you up to? And I said, well, Doug McMillan and I have launched a movement of financial literacy for all, to embed financial literacy into the business plan of corporate America as a new civil rights issue for all. And he looked at me incredulous. I don't know if you remember this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
He was offended. Why haven't you asked me? He didn't want to be a member of the organization. He wanted to be a founding member of the organization. We had to go back, and we had to take a vote, go back, and actually have it retroactively embedded. That Dan, I don't know if you knew this, we retroactively embedded you as a founding member because you were so passionate. We actually thought we couldn't do this with legitimacy without having a CEO like you who really believed part of that founding group. This is the stuff that nobody ever tells you. It's not in a press release. It's not in a public statement. You would never know what I just told you unless I told you about this man. So I'm going to ask you once again to welcome my friend, our friend, Dan Schulman. And I prefer how you're dressed or how I'm dressed. So Dan, why are you so crazy? I mean, when I mean crazy, I mean normal. But normal is abnormal these days. Like when I talk to you, just a normal guy. Mm-hmm. You happen to be very successful, you happen to be blessed, you happen to be running a global company. But if you're walking down the street, nobody would know you from anybody else because you don't take yourself seriously. Where does that come from? And how important do you think that is? And by the way, I want to acknowledge France, who's here, who's your right arm, and Summer, who are also here supporting you. How do you think that embeds into how you lead?
Well, first of all, John, thank you so much for that embarrassing story, which is absolutely true. And it's also great to be speaking in front of people. I haven't done that for 20 months.
So this is your first major event in North America?
Yeah, actually across the world. Last time was in February of 2020 in New York City. So first time. So it's a little weird for me right now, so I'm figuring it all out again. So, you know, I think whether we want it or not, we're all kind of shaped and formed by our parents, every one of us. And, you know, my parents would never, ever even dream of letting me be anything but normal. I mean, you know, anytime I spoke too much, my dad would say, son, we're born with 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them proportionately. You know, anytime I'd start to say something, he would say something like, son, you are what you do, not what you say. And that's what defines a person. And, you know, my mom marched me in civil rights marches in my baby carriage. My dad thought I would be the youngest person in the country in an FBI file as a result of it. And so, you know, from an early age, you know, I was just brought up, not to care, but just like that's who we are. We're all one. And it's carried through to my business career. And I think, you know, I do a lot of martial arts. That's another big thing that I do. And I think you do enough martial arts, you know, no matter how much you know, you're always going to get hit. And you never know that much. And you have to have a huge sense of humility. And I think that authenticity helps me be just true to myself.
How do you fuse your personal feelings of what happened with George Floyd? I know that affected you personally. And how you fuse that and make that part of a business commitment, that sense of social justice, and convert that into something that's sustainable and meaningful. In other words, tell the audience about that $500 million commitment and how that translates social justice through an economic lens.
Yeah. Well, post the death of George Floyd, I mean, and so many others, but post George Floyd, it just set forth a flood of emotion, not just in me, but honestly across our country. And I had never seen more emotion inside PayPal. I mean, there was despair, frustration, anger, hope. There's a bunch of things, but just a ton of emotion. I knew, because PayPal is a very values-based company, you know, we've taken values-based stands on a number of issues, taken down white supremacist groups from raising money on our platform, which, you know, often resulted in threats against my family, death threats against me. And I knew we had to stand up again because, you know, no business stands alone from its community that it stands in. We're not a bubble. We're part of the world. We're a part of the communities we live in, but all the communities we serve. And, you know, I was going to give a couple of $1 million of our money to what I thought were very well-deserving charitable organizations that work on the ground, that were really addressing the issues of social justice and civil rights. And I spoke to a number of Black leaders inside PayPal and Black leaders across the country to talk about this. Reverend Barber, a number of leaders. And I remember one of them saying, Dan, you need to stand up at this time. This needs to be not a moment in time, but a movement over time. And that means that you cannot give a couple $1 million at the moment, but you need to think about what is the stand that you're going to make, and how do you think about doing something over the long run, not just right now. How do you become not just against racism, but anti-racist, be part of the fight against systemic racism? And that's where I really kind of came back to my team, to Franz, I talked this through with my fiance, Summerlee, like a lot of things, like what do we do at this moment? And we decided that we were gonna stand up, and at the time, it was, I think it was the largest corporate commitment at the time. It's now one of the top 5 or 10 largest corporate commitments, that we were gonna fight the racial wealth gap. And the racial wealth gap, you know, it's the same today as it was in 1968 at the height of the last civil rights movement. And we felt like we might be able to do something about that, just do a small part. I always say to people, you can't start a revolution by thinking, dreaming big. You got to do things one step at a time, you know, make a move. Then other people react to that move. And soon enough, you know, things can fall into place, and you can make a real difference. And so we decided to do a $535 million commitment. And that commitment was to nonprofits. We did $5 million to nonprofits. Operation Hope was obviously one of those. We also did $15 million of grants, not loans, grants to small businesses that were owned by Black owners, because, you know, Black businesses were going out of business at the rate of 44%, double the national average. Why? Because they couldn't get access to capital. You know, because there's forms of systemic racism that goes on, and discrimination, educational disparities. And so we gave out $15 million to about 1,900 Black-owned businesses. By the way, 91% of them are still in business today. 91%.
So these are equity investments, essentially.
What?
Equity investments without a dividend back to you.
Exactly. And then we gave $500 million to community banks inside neighborhoods that are underserved and credit unions like Hope Credit Union. And we gave $100 million to Black and Latinx-led venture firms that were investing in entrepreneurs of color. Because, as everybody in this room probably knows, only 2% of venture funds go to entrepreneurs of color. And so we felt like if you wanted to create like real wealth, generational wealth, that we pass from one generation to another, it's investing in entrepreneurs. And we think that's probably going to be one of our best investments that we ever make as a company. And so we really thought about this across a wide landscape. By the way, we're just starting on this, John. You know, it's like, that was the initial commitment. You really inspired me on that conversation we had where I wanted to give up my salary and my compensation. And you said, do something systemic. And, you know, what you probably don't realize is what I then did is went back to all of our employees and looked at those who were struggling to make ends meet. And now we have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into our employees so that none of them have to worry about making ends meet every month. And that was you. That was you.
No, that was you, my man.
That was you inspiring me.
So as we come to a close here, Dan, what do you have to say? What's your statement to corporate leaders who are watching this? Entrepreneurs, corporate leaders, founders, successful people. We're not looking for a handout. We're looking for a hand up. We're trying to teach people how to fish at scale. Folks who say, but Dan, how's your business doing? Is this going to suffer? Are you going to suffer at PayPal? Your shareholders going to suffer? What I've been looking and tracking you, your growth is through the roof since you made this commitment. What do you say to corporate leaders who question whether you can do well or do good too? Last word.
I think the idea that profit and purpose are at odds with each other is ridiculous. Where do people want to work? People want to work at companies that make a difference. We spend, unfortunately, a majority of our waking life working. And the best employees want to be somewhere that has a mission, that has values, that has a sense of purpose, and that stands up for those values publicly. And I think you attract the very best people to your company if you have that. And I think the biggest sustainable competitive advantage that any company has is the strength, the diversity, and the passion of their employees. And I will bet on that anytime. And I think that's why profit and purpose go hand in hand.
So I was going to ask about the future of payment systems, et cetera, but my guess is you guys can get that interview version of Dan Schulman elsewhere. I actually don't want to leave this point. As we wrap this up, I want you to let marinate what one of the top CEOs in the world just said to you. He said, and you correct me if I get this wrong, Dan, no sympathy, no handouts, no charity, although there's a place for philanthropy and giving back in everybody's life. As a hard-nosed CEO, you believe, as one of the top performing CEOs and companies in the world, that an investment in social justice and in your employees' well-being gives one of the greatest returns on brand that you could imagine. Did I translate that properly?
I mean, it's not just me that's saying that. There's so many empirical studies that say that same thing. It's actually ridiculous that not everybody is doing this. By the way, I think about it, you know, I go, wow, we're just going to have a huge competitive advantage because not every company is thinking about it that way, because if they did, you know, everybody would be lifted up on this, including all businesses. So absolutely, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Schulman.
name is Fennell Wilkins, and I am a living testament of Operation Hope. From Atlanta, Georgia. First generation Liberian to Liberian parents. I've always had the dream and desire to do something outside of the norm. And for me, I decided that I wanted to open up not just a film production company, but gear rental service to filmmakers that can't afford to own big time lights, big time cameras, big time microphones to shoot their dream movie that they always wanted to shoot.
Tell me a story.
Let alone being able to open up film schools in African countries and give young individuals like myself a chance to pursue a career outside of being a lawyer, a doctor, but something that really speaks to their soul. And the great Mr. Lyndon Jackson was one of the few individuals that encouraged me to be part of Operation Hope and take advantage of the 1MBB, helping out Black women live outside of the 9 to 5, but to really live out their dreams and become their own boss and create a platform, create a brand for themselves that they've always wanted to.
Photo time in the back. Our next guest was named the top investor under 30 by Forbes in 2015, and one of the best young entrepreneurs, you can tell my glasses are back there, by Business Week. Joining us now, live from San Francisco, help me welcome Open All CEO Sam Altman.
Sam, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being with us. And by the way, this is not video, he's live.
I am live.
And I'm going to protect his location. He's not in San Francisco, but I'll protect his location. I will tell you, it took considerable effort for Sam to do this. He is, I'll just say, halfway around the world. So I want to thank you for doing this for me and for us, because you're a special guy, man. You're a quiet storm.
Thank you for saying that. It's really nice. But no, it's my absolute pleasure to be doing this.
No, let me just tell the audience a little bit from a perspective that they will understand. Please allow me to embarrass you a little bit. But probably one of the most dressed down billionaires you'll ever meet. That's about as fancy as he gets. An early investor in Airbnb, Stripe, Reddit, Pinterest, Instacart. You starting to get it? I'm sorry, are you with me? Are you starting to get it? He's now launched OpenAI, a research company that wants to use digital intelligence to benefit, not harm, humanity. I've often said, Sam, that we're sitting in a moment in history, but history does not feel historic when you're sitting in it. It just feels like another day. But that doesn't mean the moment we're in is not, in fact, historic. So before you comment on this discussion about humanity and AI, artificial intelligence, and talk about what prompted you to start the venture, I want to tell a quick story. So I'm in middle America at a conference with Shatra, my wife, and we're hearing this young man, and Sam and I haven't talked about this, we're hearing this young man who's younger than Sam give a presentation about a rocket that he wants to design through 3D. Sam, can I talk about this? I guess
yeah,
I am.
Sure.
And
all good.
And they met at a coffee shop, and the guy pitches them on the idea, and I think the guy wanted $250 million, if I got the number right. And if I get this story right, this is a 3D rocket, three-dimensional, basically you print it, a printable rocket that goes, into space. And Sam, if I get this right, said, that's a ridiculous idea. That's completely crazy. And Sam makes the investment. I'm sitting there with Shatra going, okay, this may be Sam's demise. He's been a great investor up until now, but you go far enough to the North Pole, you end up south. And the guy goes on to tell the story, again, true believer, that they developed a rocket in basically a warehouse in a month that used to take a year to produce one rocket. And that company now is being hosted, if I get this right, Sam, at NASA, has a launch pad, and has been given access to thousands of acres of government-endorsed and supported technology at NASA from an idea on the back of a napkin at Starbucks.
It's been amazing to watch.
Did I get any of that wrong?
We invested much less money. They raised that much later, but when we first met, they were raising like $120,000 just to get started.
They're raising $120,000, and this is now one of
Very early on.
half dozen companies that now is essentially a hosted guest of NASA.
It's incredible. From nothing to this in just a few years. It's really been remarkable to watch.
And what used to take, different sites in a year or two to build, now it's possible to build a rocket, as I understand it, in basically a month's time. Something like that, yeah. So I'm connecting this now to your vision about AI, because both of these require you to see around corners. So help the audience to understand, those who want to be like you, those who want to emulate your success. What's that clear line of sight thinking that allows you to see around those corners and to grab a hold of that vision?
I've never figured out how to see around corners. The thing that I think you can learn how to do is learn how to see exponential curves. And that's, we don't seem to be well programmed to do that. It's not natural. We sort of think about things that grow linearly. But when you can identify a technology that is going to grow exponentially, I think artificial intelligence is certainly one of these. 3D printing was another. And you're able to then get a bunch of other people to really believe in that vision with you and stay at it for a long period of time. Technology is magic, and you can do incredible things. I think that the world needs a lot of this right now. Our vision at OpenAI is, we think this new technology is coming that is going to be a bigger deal than anything before. It's going to change our whole world. We're going to have computer programs that can think, come up with new ideas like a human, smarter than any human. And, we want to make sure that happens in the good way, not the bad way. There's plenty of scary versions of that, but there's incredibly great ones too, where we all have more abundance and better tools and services than we can ever imagine before. And, that's the kind of stuff that I like to work on. And I think a lot of people get inspired. One of the things that I have learned counterintuitively is it is easier to start a hard company than it is to start an easy one. People really get excited to help you if you're going to do something very ambitious. People want to join that company, work at that company, fun to be around it. And so my advice to everyone thinking about it is don't be afraid of your most ambitious ideas. Those are, everyone thinks those are too hard, but those are the easier ones to make happen.
And when did you start thinking like this, Sam? Like, how old were you when you leaned in to your first major think big idea?
I was very lucky in that I met a guy when I was a sophomore in college named Paul Graham, who has been an unbelievable mentor and hero to me and many other people. And he started Y Combinator, which was an organization that I ran after him that helps people get started with their companies. We funded thousands of companies. You mentioned a bunch of them earlier.
Yep.
But it's been very rewarding because he did something for me that was super valuable that I then got to do for other people, which is believe in someone and help them become more ambitious. And I'm sure if he didn't do that, I would never have learned to think that way. So I'm very grateful he did. So for what that mentor did for you, you effectively did for that young man in the coffee shop. And you're paying it forward. Yeah, and it is one of the most, rewarding things to do. I truly believe that kind of like the way the world works is you like find a crew of people and help that you can bet on and believe in and help lift them up. And they create far more success for you than you could ever create for yourself. And also has just felt great to do.
And given that I'm paying you a total of $0 to inconvenience yourself in the middle of the night to do this from halfway around the world, my guess is that there's a little bit of your heart in this conversation as well. Why?
Like spreading, like, I can't believe what an important secret it is that startups work. They can change the world. They're the best way to create wealth for yourself, for communities. They're the best way to make new things happen. That is like, maybe the single most important secret I've ever learned. And I'll take any opportunity I get to try to explain that to other people. I love talking about that. I love doing classes about startups. It's a little bit of an addiction, but it's something I really believe in.
And do you believe, Sam, and I want to get back to AI here in a second, but do you believe that there's genius, Sam Altman-like genius, in urban, inner city, and rural communities waiting to be tapped also?
Absolutely. I think this was part of what Y Combinator found out or kind of believed in, a way that talent is evenly distributed throughout the entire world, but opportunity is not. And I think one of the magic things that Y Combinator showed is if you have a way to distribute that opportunity outside of the traditional, you have to know a VC, which is how it used to be, have a warm introduction, whatever. If you can get around that, if you can just sort of make the system more inclusive, you find the individuals that can do this, that create these companies everywhere. And I so deeply believe that. And I think it is that's as close to a purpose as anything I've ever found.
Two questions. One.
Also, YC wants to help. If you're thinking about this, I don't work there anymore, but I have a lot of pride in the organization, and I can't recommend it highly enough as a way to get started.
Can you name the organization again for the audience?
Y Combinator.
Y Combinator.
Please check it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Two questions. Where does your decency come from? The fact that when you and I have spoken, it's always been, you don't use 20 words what two will do. You're not self-important in the sense that you sort of know who you are and you know your faults and your talents, and you're not bragging on your talents. We're just having a conversation. Where'd that sense of decency come from? And hopefully the answer inspires others to follow your lead as they come up as a young, successful person. Number two, I want to talk about AI and why you believe this can be a force for good, because a lot of people are afraid of the power and possibly the negative corrosive effects of artificial intelligence.
On the first one, that's very nice of you to say. I am sure all of the credit goes to my parents and my teachers and the people that I grew up with and the people that have, mentored me along the way. And any little bit of arrogance that's still there is my fault. But I've always noticed that the people that I want to work with and that I want to help are the people that are kind of the least pretentious, the most open, the most sort of willing to help. And it's, I found in my own experience that, not only do I like acting that way, but it always seems to work out the best. And everybody's happier. It's just a better way to live life. I don't think people need any more obnoxious tech people. On the comment about AI, look, I think it's very understandable to be scared. And I think if people aren't a little bit scared, they're not paying attention. We're talking about creating something that is more powerful than any of us in a way. And we're talking about something that can do sort of one of the things that is the most human of all of our capabilities. The reason we started the organization is that the stakes here are so high. This can be either incredibly good or incredibly bad. So the sci-fi movies where the robots wake up and, cause us harm, that's obvious. But there's other versions where, it distorts the algorithms online and convinces people of bad things, or it sort of incites violence, or it makes us just feel bad about ourselves, or who knows what else. We've seen recently how technology that wasn't intended for anything negative can be used with quite bad effects. But the upside here is huge. And that's why we started the organizations, because we wanted to be this independent entity pushing things in the way that we think. We came up with this new structure to do it called a capped profit. So our investors can make a fixed amount of money, but then after that, we share everything equally with the world, which I think is what's going to have to happen if we really do make, someday if we really do make AGI, it's going to have massive economic impact on everything. A lot of jobs are going to go away. There will be new ones, of course, but there will be this strange transition period. And we wanted to be able to share the benefits of that with everybody. We also wanted to be able to make sure that we could do all the safety research that we needed. We didn't have like the pressures of having to like profit and be part of a big company so that we don't end up in that bad direction. So lots to be scared of, but on the other side, like I think we can imagine a world where everyone gets a great education, everyone gets great medical care, everyone can have like beautiful houses. We have tools that can like make us maximally effective, maximally enjoy our life. I think it's like hard to imagine how good this technology can be on the upside.
The reason I asked about your decency, commented on it and asked where it came from, Sam, was that it's going to be, those values are going to be really, really important as you lean into AI. In some ways, you've got the indirect power of a head of state. And
it's nice of you to say that, but I really don't think we can rely on any one person's set of values. I think we're going to have a very important and difficult collective humanity-wide conversation about what human values we want to put into the system we're going to build. And I don't think any one company, and certainly not any one person, should get to decide that.
The exact right answer, Sam. So, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to wrap up with a couple questions to talk about the future. How do you think AI will change the economy? And specifically, how will it affect folks who are already struggling? Question number one. Question number two, tied to that, what most excites you about the future? And what should everybody watching this forum be paying attention to that they're not?
Look, it's always hard to predict exactly how a technology is going to affect the economy. And with AI, people have mostly been wrong with their predictions. Everyone said we're going to have self-driving cars sooner than we have, and that truckers were going to be out of work. People have also said that with AI, we were going to, creative jobs were never at risk because AI didn't have creativity. And what's happened is AI can now generate pretty good art and pretty good music, but it still can't drive cars. So I think that's like an example of how it's difficult. But I think that what we're seeing so far is that AI is creating these tools that can't replace humans, but they're good in different ways than humans. So we released a product called Codex that can help a human write code. And maybe that human coder can now be twice as productive and spend more time on the parts of their jobs that they like. But that thing can't go replace a human coder. I think in the short term, we're going to see a lot more of that. In the long term, I do think it is going to do some full jobs, and I don't think it does us any good to pretend otherwise. Like that does seem to be the trajectory we're on here. In terms of how it's going to help people, I do think we are going to see the cost of goods and services that people need, the real necessities, come down by a huge amount over time. And the cost of a good life is just going to get much, much less expensive. And I think that will help people a lot. I think everyone on earth is going to be able to get a really great education if they want it, and that'll help people a lot. So I think there's a lot of good things coming like that. And that's the kind of stuff that excites me, this idea that like everybody on earth gets an AI doctor that can help them get better medical care than the best person can get today. I think that's going to be super inspiring. The fact that AI will help us solve diseases that right now humans just can't figure out how to solve. Super excited for that. So I think that's all really good. The stuff that excites me about the future, AI the most. And then the other categories are energy and what's happening all across there to get to much less expensive, better for the planet energy. Biology and all the progress we're making, finally being able to control and edit biology, I do think will cure a lot of disease pretty quickly. And then with crypto, I think that is both a new financial system and a new governance system that most people are still underestimating. And to our point earlier about needing to get input from the whole world and how technological change happens and impacts society and not just the few people that happen to work at these companies, I'm very excited with everything that's happening in crypto to enable that.
Sam, we should work together on making sure that as you open up AI, we open up this conversation, as you have said, to the community to have input. And I commit to work with you whenever, in any way that is helpful to you, to make sure you have a broad, wide, and deep share of voice from a broad, wide, and deep share of really smart people who care about.
I would love to do that with you, and I think now is the time to do it.
It's probably one of my most important conversations at a Hope Global Forum in 28 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Altman and the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you, my friend. God bless you.
God bless you.
Hi, I'm John Hope Bryant, founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of
I don't think this is a secret that if you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your customers and the company is stronger.
We moved down here to find better jobs and have a better opportunity. And we wanted my daughter, 4 years old, who had been sleeping in the same room as us, to be able to have her own room. So trying to buy a house, but my credit score wasn't looking too great. Helping me get the derogatory mark off my credit score allowed my wife and I to buy a house.
My hope is that this combination of access to ownership and participating in financial outcomes plus financial literacy training and skill building will lead to great outcomes for our colleagues.
I got my glasses. Our next guest is a legend in journalism. He has served as Washington bureau chief for CNBC and the Wall Street Journal, where he later became deputy managing director and executive editor online. He went on to become president of Pew Research, then editor of Fortune magazine. Since 2018, he has served as chief executive officer of Fortune Media. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Alan Murray and John Hope Bryant.
I don't know how you have the energy to do this, just one after the other. You're awesome.
Well, when you care, it's easy. And everybody I bring on this stage, I try to apply the passion version of the Oprah rule. When Oprah gave me an award, her producers and her support people said that they had to do the Oprah test on me, which was they had to go and do deep background on me, going back to my childhood, to make sure that I had as much to lose reputationally as she did.
Wow.
I've never said
and you
that.
passed.
Well, I guess. And that $100,000 that she gave me to start my office in Chicago, thank you, Oprah Winfrey, and with money from Paul Newman, it was his salad dressing company, profits from that, which we're going to talk about this ethos, because he was ahead of his time. The money was important, but the credibility was more important. And when I bring people on stage, it's important that they have as much to lose as I do, that they're people I feel like I can wrap my hands around, that if they make a mistake, blame it on their head, not their heart, that they're decent, good people. And everybody makes a mistake, but they're not a mistake. They make a mistake, they're not a mistake. And you and I have this sort of relationship that's almost unarticulated. I can't say how you feel about me, but I trust you. And trust for a journalist is probably everything beyond basic competence, to be trusted.
It is.
And you've been passionate about this since you were 9 years old. And just to contextualize what this job is, I want to make sure I say this properly. Fortune magazine is, in long form sort of reading, people talk about the Fortune 500. You follow me? Fortune magazine is to business what Ebony magazine or Essence magazine was to the black community. And your role as the head of this editorially is, it brings gravitas to the conversation. So you, like me, have a lot to lose with the topics with which you wrap your arms around. Yet you come here talking about social justice, which is a bit of a risk in business. So you've been passionate about this from 9 years old. You come here today. Is the thing that drove you to journalism at 9 years old and the thing that has you here on this stage, is it the same line of passion?
I think there's a line. You're asking for my life story. Are you going to give me time for that? I mean, I'm an old man here.
Whatever you can do, whatever you can
No,
do in
look,
a minute.
I appreciate you say I started as a journalist when I was 9 years old.
Interested in journalism.
I actually walked up and down the neighborhood and asked people about they lost their cat or their grandmother was visiting, and I would take notes. And this was before the day of Xerox machines. So I would take all my notes home to my mother, and I'd lay them all out longhand, and she'd type them on a special kind of carbon paper, and I had a jelly sheet copying machine. I could make a copy of my newspaper on the jelly sheet copying machine, run off 30 copies, and sell them for a nickel a piece. I think, I have no idea, 9 years old, you don't know why you're doing something. But I did feel like I was doing a service. I was providing facts to these people about their neighbors and what their neighbors were up to. And I do feel very passionately about facts and about truth, and very disturbed about what's happened to facts and truth in our society. We can put that aside for a different conversation. But I want to get back to social justice, because that was really the question you were asking. I mean, the other thing about my mother was she had a very strong sense of social justice. We moved to Tennessee when I was 9 years old, and she, it was kind of a tough time for race relations. It was, busing was underway, and my earliest, strongest memory of my mother was if we would be in a room. We lived on Lookout Mountain, which Dr. King pinpointed as kind of a symbol of affluent bigotry. It was from Stone Mountain to Lookout Mountain. And she would, if we were in a room where one of my father's friends, somebody said something that had a hint of racism in it, she would just stand up and walk out. She wouldn't say anything. She would just quietly get up and walk out of the room. She said, I'm not going to be witness to this. And I was a kid. I didn't really know fully what was going on, but it made a real impression on me about your role in life and the need to be witness, that you can't be a passive. Even as a journalist, where my job was to be passive, at the end of the day, you can't really be passive. You have to make a stand. As far as how that's come up in the business world, though, there's been a dramatic, you had Dan Schulman out here earlier. Dan Schulman is a different breed of leader than existed when I started my career watching business journalism. It's I've been doing this for 4 decades. It's changed dramatically over those 4 decades. In some ways, it's changed over the last 10 years. I mean, think about this, John, and then I'll let you get on to another topic. But when Michael Brown was shot in Ferguson, Missouri, that's 2014, you go back and look and see if you can find a single CEO of a major company who said anything. And it's not because they didn't think it was horrible. It's like, my job is to take care of my company. This doesn't affect my bottom line. I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to keep my head down and stick to the things that directly affect my bottom line. You compare that to what happened when the George Floyd murder happened last year. You had CEOs at all the major companies speaking out. Now, you can say it's just words, it's cheap, but something profoundly has changed in the way leaders of large businesses think about their jobs and their responsibility in society.
Well, $50 billion of commitment to social justice, even if half of that's fluff, is still a lot of
It's not nothing.
That's not nothing.
It may not be enough, it may not be fast enough, but something, again, I'm speaking as a journalist, something very different. I have lots of theories about why, but something very different is going on today.
Why don't you tell us what your feeling is about the why?
Well, look, if you go back to when I started in this business and you think about the 20th Century Corporation, it was really it was pretty simple the way it worked. It was like an information hierarchy. You had all these people, they would send information up to the C-suite. The people in the C-suite would put together a strategy, and then they'd send orders back down. Here's what you have to do. It was very hierarchical and straightforward. That's all been blown up. First of all, information doesn't travel just vertically. It travels all over the place. Everybody gets it. And in fact, if you try and run a company by waiting for all the information to get up to the C-suite and formulating a strategy, you're going to be too late. You're going to be behind the ball. Things are moving faster. That whole model of leadership doesn't work anymore. So you have to operate at a completely different speed. But then the other thing that's changed is the importance of people. There's a guy who did a study, and he looked at the book value of Fortune 500 companies in the 1970s. And more than 80% of the book value of Fortune 500 companies was physical stuff. It was plant, equipment, oil in the ground, inventory on the shelves. If you do the same exercise today, more than 85% of the book value of Fortune 500 companies is intangibles. So what does that mean? It's like intellectual property, it's software. The value of the brand, it's software, but really if you follow that back, it's people.
Yeah.
The value comes from people, much less from stuff. And so business leaders have been forced to become much more human. If a guy like Dan Schulman, if you want to win the game, you need to attract the best people. And if you're going to attract the best people, you got to do more than just tell them what to do and write them a paycheck. You got to give them a reason. You got to give them a purpose. You got to give them a North Star. I covered business for 4 decades, and it's really only in about the last 6 years that I've heard business leaders talk about moral leadership. You would think that would have always been part of the toolkit, but it wasn't. But it is today, because that's what you have to do to motivate people to achieve great value in business.
So, yeah, absolutely. So what I'm hearing this theme. Sam inferred it. Dan said it. You're underscoring it. This is very exciting stuff. You're telling me that what used to be sort of at the periphery, the human good, wellness, societal benefit, social justice, that we would call it, that these things are increasingly core.
They are the core. They are the core. And look, we live in a very cynical society, and a lot of my colleagues in the press are very cynical. And so people, when all those statements come out about George Floyd, people roll their eyes. And some of them probably were, only words and not backed up by action. But the fundamental nature of business is changing, and it's changing in a good way because these issues are at the core of.
So name a few, if you will, either individuals or companies that you think are getting it right these days. And I want to pivot to what the Business Roundtable did and how that's changed the nature of valuing what they call shareholder value. But I'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about. Is Dan Schulman an outlier, or is he the new?
So look, I've heard this. It's really over the course of the last decade. I think it was since the Great Recession that I started hearing this more and more. And when I have the opportunity in my job to speak to a lot of CEOs, and I ask them questions. And when I hear them say the kinds of things Dan says, I push them and say, why? Why are you saying this? I would have said Dan was an outlier 10 years ago, less so today. I mean, it's probably not the majority, but it is a steadily growing group. You talk about the Business Roundtable statement. So one of the people who was instrumental in that was Ginny Rometty, who at the time was CEO at IBM. One of the things that she's done at IBM is say, we have a responsibility to train people. It gets to what Sam Altman was talking about. We have a responsibility to train people to take the jobs that are going to be created by this technological revolution.
Yes.
There will be jobs created. The challenge is, will people have the opportunity? I love what he said about talent is widely distributed, opportunity is narrowly distributed.
That's right.
Will people have the opportunity to take advantage of these jobs that are going to be created? And so,
and by the way, that's why I believe this infrastructure bill that's being debated and the human capital part of that, of retraining workers for the future, is so incredibly important.
So important. So Ginny Rometty at IBM said, well, we train people, we train the people who work for us, but we really have a broader responsibility to society than that. And so they created this P-TECH program that trained thousands of people who never went to work for IBM. But it was to address the training challenge. And then she went on, by the way, after last year, she went on to join up with the two Kens, Ken Frazier, the CEO of Merck, and the former CEO of American Express, to create the 110 Initiative, which is, again, an effort to provide 1 million jobs over the next 10 years for people, good jobs, for people who wouldn't have gotten them otherwise. So, you know, I could give you give you dozens of examples of that. And we talked about speaking out.
John Donahoe at Nike.
John Donahoe is an amazing, and has a personal story behind it. You know, he kind of took a year off after he was CEO of eBay to figure out what he wanted to do with the rest of his life, and he knew that he wanted to have a strong purpose, and he believes it. And it's been good for his company, as you point out. It's been good for PayPal. Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, I think has been really instrumental in this. I mean, he was the one, you know, as a journalist, trying to get CEOs to talk about controversial social issues over the years. It was, back to what I said, I mean, the standard view was, if it doesn't affect the bottom line of my company, I'm closing the door. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to get involved. Keep me out of it. I'm going to focus on the bottom line. Benioff changed that. Michael Brown was 2014. I think it was later that year, maybe 2015, when the state of Indiana, when Mike Pence was governor, passed a law that was widely seen as discriminating against homosexuals, gays, the whole LGBT community. And Benioff said, okay, I'm out. I got a big plant in Indiana. We're not going to be in Indiana if this is the way you're going to run your state. That was unheard of. That was unheard of. That didn't happen in business before 2015. And since then, you've had a whole string of that. State of North Carolina passes a bill about public access to bathrooms, seen as discriminating against transgender people. Bank of America, the largest employer in the state, says, nope, we're not going along with that. You got to change it. Here in the state of Georgia, after the Parkland shootings in Florida, Ed Bastian, the CEO of Delta Airlines, he has a tax bill, a tax bill in front of the state legislature. The majority of the legislature's members are members of the NRA, and he says, you know what, I'm out. We're not gonna give that discount to people flying to the NRA.
And that was before George Floyd. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was
he deserves applause. Absolutely.
And you, again, that sort of thing didn't happen. Demonstrable hit to his bottom line. Said, sorry, I believe in this is the right thing to do. We're going to do it.
And by the way, before the pandemic hit, I stood with him on Squawk Box to announce he was making $2 billion of profit sharing with his employees. 3 months later, the company's in trouble because of the pandemic. The employees so believed in what he believed in, and they knew that he
stuck with him.
Backed him, that he didn't have to lay off one employee. They all took voluntary leave. That saved the company money and hassle and problems, and they backed him. And when it came out of the pandemic, he came out stronger than any of the other.
Well, that's the amazing thing. So yes, he took a hit. He took a hit. He lost the tax benefit in the state, but in the long run, it's paid off. Just as it's paid off for John Donahoe at Nike, just as it's paid off for Dan Schulman at PayPal, just as it's paid off for, before I came down here tonight, I was reading Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. I mean, this is a company that's now worth $2.3 trillion. I didn't think we would ever see a company worth more than $2 trillion. I didn't think we'd see a company worth more than $1 trillion in my lifetime. He wrote a letter to it's what used to be called a letter to his shareholders, but it's now a letter to his shareholders, his employees, his customers, the communities they live in, the whole stakeholder. And it talks a lot about technology and the incredible things happening in technology, but then it ends with a strong statement of Microsoft's purpose. It talks about inclusive growth, it talks about sustainability, and it talks about trust.
Yeah.
That technology has to engender trust. He means that stuff, and it's serving his business interests really well, but I think it's serving the world well, too, to have companies turn in this direction. I don't want to sound like a Pollyanna here. I mean, there's still plenty of companies that do bad things. Even good companies do bad things. But something, as a journalist, I can tell you, something is very different than it was in business than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
As we begin to wrap up, Alan, where do you think all this is headed? How does this relate to the Business Roundtable and their redefinition of shareholder value? And if we have time, I want to tell the story about Robert Woodruff. We may not have time, we're short on time, but I don't want to shortchange your close. You go first. How does all this relate to what the Business Roundtable, the gauntlet they put down, I think 2 years ago, and where are we going?
Well, here's the thing. We spent a century, maybe 2 centuries, developing this financial architecture that measures shareholder returns. I mean, you got the big 4 accounting firms, you got all kinds, everybody knows how to do that. We got that down now. We've been working on it for 200 years.
Yeah.
We're just beginning to figure out how you make these stakeholder commitments real and measurable and tangible and accountable. Because if you can't measure them, you can't hold companies account for what they say. And so they could say one thing and do something else. So I think it's going to take a while to develop that infrastructure to make the Business Roundtable's statement become a practical reality. I do believe we're headed in that direction. I think the big issue, if you want to know what keeps me up at night, the big issue is, are we moving fast enough to deal with the pace of change and the challenge? I mean, technology, no question in my mind, has exacerbated the divisions in our society. Pandemic, no question in my mind, exacerbated the divisions in our society. So it's great to see business moving in a direction to heal those divisions, but the question is, can the business community move faster than the divisions are growing?
You know what I like about you, man? I don't know if you guys are noticing this. Have you noticed that he doesn't edit when he talks? He just talks. He believes something, and you say it. He says it, and you hear it. It's wonderful to talk to somebody who actually lives their values.
Oh, well, thank you.
So thank you for that. I'm out of time, but I'm gonna do this anyway, because I think it's important to sort of put a cherry on this cake. I thought a few years ago there were very few what I call Woodruff-era leaders. Robert Woodruff, the example here. You probably know the story. Ambassador Young is here. He knows it better than me, but when Dr. King and Ambassador Young were coming back from Norway, he had won the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm gonna tell the story real quickly. And the problem in Atlanta was supposedly the moral capital of America back then, and I think it is now. The business community here didn't want to honor him for winning the Nobel Peace Prize. And the mayor didn't have the power in and of themselves to force them to do it, so he went to the CEO of Coca-Cola. At that point, he was the just retired CEO, Robert Woodruff. We have a problem. Robert Woodruff said, this is ridiculous. Get all the business leaders in my office. I'm giving you the short version of the story. They get in his office and they say, look, knock it off. You don't like this guy? Of course you don't like this guy. He's creating change. You call him a troublemaker? No, that's called a transformer. And he's causing you to think about things you don't want to think about. That doesn't mean he's wrong. It means he's ahead of his time. But let me make this very clear to you, he said. This man won the most important award in the world. Pause. We're the largest then global supply company in the world, Coca-Cola. Pause. If you don't want to honor this man, we're going to move out of this little backwards rear-end city. Because clearly you don't get where the world's going. You need us more than we need you. By the way, most of you in here, business leaders, are my vendors, which means I'm writing your check.
Yeah.
I want you to sell out that ballroom within 2 weeks. You have a day to make the decision. And he walked out the room, dropped the mic. If you go and look on your phones on the Nobel Peace Prize honor for Dr. King in Atlanta, the ballroom was packed and folks were lining the walls. It wasn't just that in 1960 whatever people had great moral fiber. It's that business leaders who may not have gotten the credit then, Robert Woodruff, stood up and said, knock it off, do the right thing. And just so happens, by the way, after that, blacks and others here and in Africa fueled Coca-Cola's growth for decades.
Yeah, and let me say to that really quickly, because it's a great story. It's a great story. And you know, if you read Peter Drucker or the best business leaders, have always led with a clear sense of purpose. So I don't want to pretend that something brand new has happened, but we did have kind of an era at the end of the century where there was just way too much focus on short-term shareholder return.
Yep.
And I do think the dynamics of business are changing in a way that now it's not just the best. It's sort of anybody who wants to be successful needs to pay attention to these human factors because it's the core of value.
Welcome to an era, hopefully, like Doug McMillan of Walmart and
great example.
Ed Bastian of Delta, and in this room here, Janice Bryant of Howard Roy, the second largest black business in America, $3 billion in revenue, who believes that
Josh, you got Josh Silverman coming.
Josh is coming of Etsy. Folks who believe you can do well and do good too. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to Alan.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm John Hope Bryant, founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Operation Hope.
Sal Khan here from Khan Academy, and I just want to say how excited we are about the Financial Literacy for All initiative.
I would argue that today, financial literacy is a new civil rights issue for this generation.
We think that there's an opportunity to impact millions of learners and make sure that they are empowered in finance, which will make them empowered in life.
If we are to embed financial literacy into the schools, I think that would be powerful. That is what I feel, how I slipped, because it was not there for me. And I think that it would certainly change the narrative.
Financial literacy is now going to be embedded into the very fiber of how we do business. You can make a difference. Sign up today, follow and track our movement, get engaged. Let's change the world together.
We can applaud, yeah. Our next guest holds 3 degrees from MIT and an MBA from Harvard, obviously an underachiever. But he's best known for his vision to help educate America as co-founder and founder and CEO of Khan Academy. Please help me welcome live from Mountain View, California, Mr. Saul Khan. And that's Sal Khan.
Hey, Sal.
Hey, John.
This is live. People don't know when they watch this whether they're seeing a video, a pre-recorded video link, or is live. So I want to reaffirm. I'm just saying hello so that people know you're saying hello back.
Absolutely. I can confirm it is exactly 5:26 California time right now.
I don't think that people understand the power of technology as part of change in where the world is right now. I want you to break this down, take us from 30,000 feet down to 5 feet, so everybody gets that, what I think you and I talked about at lunch in the Bay Area, which is you can't be a growth company, church, synagogue, mosque, Boys and Girls Club, for-profit, nonprofit, unless technology is at the center of what you do. It's all around us. It's allowing you and I to do this interview in the middle of a pandemic, connected across the country, and how you've taken right brain and left brain thinking, because you're one of these few tech people who actually feels and understands the texture of people very easily, but you also have this engineering brain. Tell us about Khan Academy. I'm not sure most people in the main understand it. It's been transformational, and how you got one of the biggest banks in the world to back your vision with big money. Give us a quick vision on Khan Academy.
Yeah, so Khan Academy, we're a not-for-profit organization, mission-free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And I add the parenthetical, and we're serious about it. A lot of folks know, or maybe don't know, how all of this started. I was originally working in tech, then I go to business school, then after business school, I'm an analyst at a hedge fund. And then one of my cousins needs help. I find out that she's struggling in math. She was 12. I offer to tutor her remotely. Word spreads in my family that free tutoring is going on. And before I knew it, I'm working with 10, 15 cousins, family, friends from around the country. This was when I was working as an analyst at a hedge fund back in 2004, 2005. And I saw patterns in my cousins as to why they were struggling. It wasn't because they weren't bright. It wasn't because they didn't have great teachers or that the subject matter was difficult. It was because they had gaps in their learning. In a traditional academic model, you move everyone lockstep. You get an 80% on a test, too bad. The whole class is going to move on to the next concept. So as a hobby, I started writing software for them. I called it Khan Academy. The domain name was available. And then in 2006, a friend suggested, he's like, this is a cool family project you have, Sal, but how are you scaling your lessons? I said, it's hard. He said, why don't you record some of your lessons as videos on YouTube and upload them for your family? I said, that's a horrible idea. YouTube is for cats playing piano, dogs on skateboards. It is not for math. But I got over the idea that it was not my idea, and I gave that a shot. And after a couple of months, my cousins somewhat infamously told me they liked me better on YouTube than in person. So I took that as positive feedback, and I kept going. And frankly, by 2009, I had already set it up as a not-for-profit. I was thinking that one day, if I did well in the hedge fund world, I could retire and maybe work on this. So I had set it up as a not-for-profit organization. I don't own Khan Academy. No one does. It's a public charity. But by 2009, there were actually about 50,000 people who were using these resources every month. And I was getting letters from folks all over the world saying how they're deployed in Iraq and they're able to use this content while they're there, and now they feel confidence going back to college, or that someone's child had a learning disability and this was what was allowing them to keep up with class, or someone thought they were no good at math and then they were able to fill in their gaps that had accumulated, and now they want to become a math major or they want to be an engineer. So I frankly had trouble focusing on my day job. My wife and I were saving up a little bit of money. I took the plunge then, go full time on Khan Academy, and we could talk more about it, but 2009 was a very tough year. Most entrepreneurs experience that tough year where you don't know if you made a good decision and you're living off of savings. But by 2010, we got our first real philanthropic funding. And, I definitely want to talk about financial literacy, but it's been a wild ride there. Since then, those 50 to 100,000 students have grown to over 100 million.
Whoa, back up. Can you say that really fast? Can you say that again so the audience understand the power of your impact? How many folks have you educated?
Well, right now we have about 130 million registered users. About 30 million folks are coming every month all over the world. There's 50 translations.
Did you hear that? Sal, hold on a minute. My cousin Choo Choo's got 20 registered users on their app. How many registered users do you have again?
120 million, 130 million now, actually.
130 million from an idea. Go ahead, continue. I love it.
And you're absolutely right. We used to work on Khan Academy in the same walk-in closet that I'm right now, and it was somewhat delusional when you fill out the paperwork with the IRS and they ask you for mission to say a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. But to your question about the power of technology, it shows just that there's something about the time and the technology and, hopefully the how Khan Academy came to being. I actually think it was a blessing that it started off as a family project. Hopefully people can sense that it isn't your typical business. It is a not-for-profit, but it also has a certain, it sounds cheesy, but love in it, that you feel a connection. But financial literacy was something that was always close to my heart. We obviously started in math and in science, but I was an analyst at a hedge fund. And I remember back in 2009 or 2008, when the financial crisis was hitting, which was really a crisis of financial literacy. If you think about the people who got in over their heads with mortgages and whatnot, I started making a whole series of videos because I saw even the analysts at my hedge fund, the junior analysts, they themselves, my favorite interview question when I was hiring kids from some of the top universities with summa cum laude JPAs, I would say, okay, there's a house. This is how much I can rent it for. This is how much I could buy it for. Should I rent it or should I buy it? Very basic financial literacy question. It's amazing how many people it will stump. Some people just say, oh, you got to always buy. Buying is good. I was like, okay, now what if the rent's the same and the house costs twice as much? And they're like, oh, I see what you're doing. And what's the framework for that? So I started making videos back in 2007, 2008 on also, how does the Federal Reserve work? What's a stock? What's a bond? What's a credit default swap? What's a mortgage-backed security? And I remember even then there was someone from, I won't say which bank, who emailed me saying, thank you so much for that video on mortgage-backed securities. I now know what I do for a living, which better late than never. But when the financial crisis hit and I was just operating in this closet, I started getting contacts from all the major news media saying, we're watching these videos before we're reporting on the financial crisis. And so, and then they even brought me on to explain what some of this stuff was. And so in 2011, Bank of America reached out and they said, this crisis was at least in part a crisis of financial literacy. And we have a responsibility as a financial institution, frankly, corporate America has a responsibility to make sure that people are well informed. And they said, look, if we could try to do this ourselves, one, people will be skeptical of a bank. They're going to think it's marketing material, but they also appreciated the authenticity, the real talk, so to speak, of Khan Academy, that the trust that we already had, that, I'm not beholden to anyone. And I said, well, if we're going to do this, I'm not going to be beholden to y'all either. And they're like, that's exactly why we're talking to you. So we went on that journey and it's been a great one. Many tens of millions of folks have benefited from it. But what I'm really excited about is this partnership we're forging with y'all to take it to the next level, where we can bring above and beyond Bank of America, many other corporate partners, create courses in financial literacy that we can bring into high schools, bring into colleges. A lot of employers are interested in doing that for their employees.
What's the biggest, so Sal is a founding member of Financial Literacy for All, along with me and Doug McMillan, CEO of Walmart, NFL commissioner, NBA commissioner, Bank of America CEO, Disney CEO, Delta Airlines CEO, I'm gonna get in trouble here, PayPal CEO, Dan, who's here, and somebody will ping me and tell me the others. You can go to Financial Literacy for All to get the complete list, and the group is growing by the week. We announce a new couple members every few days. But Sal is the only nonprofit with me, traditional nonprofit, that's in this, and neither one of us are getting paid. Neither one of us have contracts. Just to be completely clear, we're doing this because we think it's the right thing to do as a public service, as a public good. We think this is I'm going to speak for you, Sal. You tell me if I'm wrong. We think this is a civil rights issue for this generation, financial literacy. So why do you believe this is so important? And what has been the big aha that has hit you from doing your work at Khan Academy about the power of financial literacy? Do you have a story or two that you can share with us of how this really has come to life in people's lives?
Yeah, I see it all around me every day. I told you the story about these highly educated analysts that we had at our hedge fund. They did not have a framework for it. And if they don't have a framework, well, there's not a lot of hope for everyone else. I see it in my own family every day. Obviously, I work on education. Education isn't just about empowering test scores. It's about making someone a productive, healthy human being and someone who feels a sense of purpose. And I think we all know that if you are living, if you're paycheck to paycheck, you're not able to have a reserve. We all know the statistics about how few Americans have more than a few $100s of savings. If they have even the slightest stress on their life, an emergency, they're going to be in tough situation. It affects people's mental health. It affects their family situation. It affects their physical health. So I couldn't agree more that there's a lot of important issues in the world, but when it comes down to people's finances and how to make sense of them and how to make sure they have reserves, they're saving, and it's within reach of anyone. I think that's the important thing. You know, my mother, we grew up below the poverty line. She worked a whole series of minimum wage jobs when she could, raised us as a single mother, but she actually was very financially literate. We reused paper towels. I still cringe when I see people throw away paper towels. I'm like, you can just dry it out and reuse it. But I saw what she could do when, she could cook for the week off of $30. And, this might've been in the 80s or 90s, but even inflation adjusted. And so even when she had low means, we had a reserve. We had some savings, not a lot. But I also, at the other side, saw the stress that you can have when you're on a razor-thin margin like we were. So I completely agree. If you don't have that basic financial cushion or financial literacy, everything else becomes that much harder.
Yeah, and I want to commend, or underscore, first of all, what he said. Number one cause to divorce in America, money. Number one cause to domestic abuse, money. Number one reason why women stay with abusive men, money. Number one cause for heart attacks, stress. Number one cause for stress, money. The average family before the pandemic, more than 60% did not have $40 for an unplanned event. More than 60% of this country. And when the pandemic hit, the economy shut down because people ran out of. This is everybody's issue, but people want to spend it, they don't want to talk about it. And we have got to get our hands around this issue. We've got to prioritize it. And what I love about what Sal has done is he's made it user-friendly, he's made it approachable. And I guess the pandemic has made your business model, where you're sort of a pioneer beforehand, sort of you almost ran into the future, or the future ran into you, because now everything is coming online and you've perfected this as a model. Beyond financial literacy, can you give the audience some context for how broad and deep your reach is? You were telling me some of the statistics of what you guys are doing in other areas. Give us a quick texture of Khan Academy and your reach.
Our vision is to cover all of the core academic material and the things that should be core academic knowledge, like financial literacy, from pre-K through the core of college. We have an early learning app called Khan Academy Kids. Everything I'm talking about is free, not for profit, funded by philanthropy, but that covers math, reading, writing, social emotional learning. We already have a lot of the math. We're the official practice with the College Board for the SAT, with the law school admissions test for the LSAT, with the MCAS for medical school. 60-70% of all students who are college bound are using Khan Academy, law school bound using Khan Academy, med school bound. We are, as I mentioned, localized in over 50 countries, 50 languages in the world. And, as many students as we're trying to reach right now, our goal is to try to reach billions. We're the budget of and this goes back to your question about technologies. There's an opportunity for scale now where we're the budget of a large high school, but we think there's a chance of reaching humanity. And a big pillar of what we're trying to do is not just to learn the material, but how do we actually connect it with opportunity? In the financial literacy world, you and I are talking to folks, hey, if someone completes this course, they get a lower interest rate? Can it improve their credit? Can they get more likely to get a promotion? We're looking at a partnership with Howard University, college algebra. And this is actually a financial literacy issue. 70-80% of kids who show up at college, these are kids who are doing everything right. They don't even place into college algebra, which is really 10th or 11th grade math. They place into middle school math. We have a partnership going with Howard University, a pilot starting next term, where we're going to go into Title I schools. If the students get mastery on Khan Academy, then we're going to give them transferable college credit in college algebra. Then they're not going to have to spend that money on tuition. And it'll save them years of college. We know college student debt is a major cause of financial stress right now. If we can reduce the cost of college, make it that much easier. And then we also know the kids who don't place into college algebra, they are much more likely to not graduate while still having debt. So our goal, even in just the US, which is about 2/3 of our usage, is just to make sure we have as many empowered human beings as possible.
As we wrap up, I want people to be able to reach you. Give your website Saul?
Yeah, khanacademy.org. That's the main English website, but we're available in, as I said, 50 languages. There's a Spanish Khan Academy, es.khanacademy.org. There's a Brazilian Portuguese, br.khanacademy.org. Do a search for almost any language you can think of. There is a Khan Academy, but obviously English is where a big chunk of our energy is.
And as we wrap this up, one of our founding partners for Financial Literacy for All made a major commitment to you to get you started in financial literacy so that it's free. It's Bank of America. How much was that?
Oh, well, over the years, and I don't know how public this number has been, but it is on the order of $20 million over the last 10 years. So not a small investment.
And likewise, I'm proud to say that Truist Bank put up $20 million recently to Operation Hope to fire and support the financial literacy work, the Hope Inside work inside of bank branches, the work for the 1 Million Black Business Initiative. And recently they joined Financial Literacy for All, Sal, and they, unbeknownst to me, inspired by this work, and think about now, I just said that the average American didn't have $400 for an unplanned event. They realized their own employees had issues. So they basically said if their employees went through financial coaching programming and finished that coursework, they gave every one of their employees, $700 as an emergency savings account. That was another $40 million of reinvesting in their people. I really believe this is a movement where companies believe that reinvesting in themselves reinvests in America and pays a dividend back in their brand. I really appreciate you more than you know, my man, and thanks for your leadership. And let's go create some cutting edge financial literacy curriculum together for free.
Sounds good. Happy to be on this journey.
Sal Khan. We'll be right back.
What we need is a strong economic community and economic fabric, and that means everybody has to do well. You know, it's a misnomer to think that banks appreciate the opportunity to say no to people. It doesn't do us any good. You can't see the community divide between the haves and the have-nots and not pay attention to the have-nots and think you're going to be strong long term.
All right, we're getting close. Our next guest has 2 decades growing tech companies and scaling global marketplaces. He previously served as president of consumer products at American Express, as CEO of Skype, CEO of shopping.com. He also co-founded Evite, where he served as CEO. He is currently the CEO of Etsy. Please welcome to the stage Josh Silverman and John Hope Bryant.
The new corporate uniform is jeans.
I put on my sport coat for you. This is the
I
first time I've
appreciate
worn a
that,
sport
John.
coat in
I
a long
appreciate that.
time. I was like, John's going to wear a tie. I can't undersell this too much.
No, you look cool. You look cool. I am excited to have you here. He's a co-founded Evite, long history in tech and business. And I'm really excited for him to demystify Etsy for you. How many people here know what Etsy is? All right? All right. So you're probably misguided like me. I thought that Etsy was a homespun, down-home marketplace for small business craftsmen and craftswomen, basically like an online craft store. Am I all base? No. Okay. So I'm not completely stupid. All right. But that's completely wrong. This is like, I just love unpacking stuff like this. Like, when you understand that McDonald's is not in the hamburger business, they're in the real estate business. Then your mind, everything starts to click in different ways. Etsy is a technology company. filled with engineers, not little craftspeople, knitting.
Some of our engineers knit, but on the side.
So of course, I'm gonna get in your business. I want to understand. I don't bring people on my stage, as I said earlier, who I don't believe are nice people. So I actually think you're a really good guy, and we've had some good conversation together. So I do want to, at some point, understand. I'm gonna do this in reverse this time, because I'm so fascinated about the business. I do want to understand where you came from and how you become what I call a decent human being. And I'm gonna hold you to that standard, which won't be hard for you to do for a lifetime of maintaining that decency. Which doesn't mean that you're perfect, it just means that you just try to do the right thing wherever you can. Yeah. And it doesn't surprise me that you know a lot of the other people who are speaking here, because you guys tend to, good people tend to hang out with each other. So I want to understand the decency. I want to understand where that came from. How'd you get to the point where you take life seriously but not yourself? But before we get to any of that, you blew my mind when I toured Etsy. I was looking for the little knitters, right? And you were like, no, we need engineers. Yeah. Get me some engineers. And these are well-paid. See how excited I am? Well-paid jobs. Do you know that only 5% of black people are engineers? If you want a job for life and you never want to go broke, ever, become an engineer. My man's like, yeah. It is unbelievable. And it's mechanical engineering, computing engineering, it's all kind of engineering. But technology is the future, and there's just not enough people of color or women becoming engineers, and it's literally foolproof. Now,
that I want to find some time to talk about too. Let's make sure we squeeze in some time for that.
No, go ahead. You
want me to start on that one?
No, wherever you like.
Well, yeah, all right.
Etsy, let's explain Etsy.
No, let's talk about engineering as a guaranteed pathway to the middle class. I mean,
say it again.
Engineering is a guaranteed pathway to the middle class, right? So my grandparents arrived on the shores as refugees with a 4th grade education, and my dad grew up in subsidized housing, and his dad made clothing for him his whole young life because they could never afford store-bought clothing. And so what did my dad do? He won scholarships to the public school system and became a doctor, and that pulled our family into the middle class. And I'm here today only because of the public school system in New York City that worked and was able to help, and a lot of people who helped, with a lot of luck. Engineering is that opportunity into the middle class today. And you would think that because that seems so obvious, you cannot make less than $60,000 a year if you know how to code. You just can't.
So I want to say, again, it's important that folks, I don't want to walk past this. Did you hear what he said? You cannot make less than $60,000 a year as a
coder, as a software engineer.
Software engineer.
And so you make a whole lot more, but I'm saying, you got to go out of your way. I'm sure there's some nonprofits out there, I don't mean to disparage, or some folks who have less resources who might pay less than that, but it's hard work to get paid less than that. And
upwards of what?
Sky's the limit.
So definitely 6 figures, mid.
Oh, yeah.
Mid 6 figures.
Yeah. If you've been working for a number of years, you should actually expect to be making 6 figures as a software engineer. And it's something that a lot of people can do. There's a lot of people out there who can do that. But if you have not studied computer science by the time you graduate high school, you are very, very unlikely to pursue a career in computer science ever. And you would think that every high school in the United States teaches computer science, and that this is so clear that we have such a desperate need for software engineers in this country that we've solved this problem. In fact, about 10% of high schools in the United States teach computer science, and you won't be surprised that it's almost exclusively the well-resourced, affluent schools. White neighborhoods, wealthy neighborhoods that are teaching computer science. And in most of the United States, we're not doing that. And so you graduate from high school, you've never taken a coding class. If you show up in college, the first 2 years, you maybe get only 1 or 2 electives in college. You're not going to take computer science, right? That's pretty scary and foreign. You're going to take it as a junior. And guess what? If you start your first computer science class as a junior, it's too late to major. There's just too many. There's too many requirements. So you've got to expose people in high school at the latest to computer science. And I'm the chairman of something called Code Nation, and we go into under-resourced high schools and we teach coding, but not just teaching coding. why has this problem not already been solved? One of the reasons it hasn't been solved is when you take a teacher, let's say she's a 50-year-old English teacher, and you teach her 2 weeks of computer science, it's not clear that she can effectively teach computer science and be a role model and a mentor to these students. If you take someone and you really teach them coding, they can earn 3 times as much in the private sector, and they do. So it's very hard to retain people in the school system. So what we do at Code Nation is we take people who code for a living, we put them in the classroom with the students for a year, and 2 things happen. The students learn job-ready coding skills. They learn what it is to do this for a living, but more importantly, they know 4 people who are adults who code for a living. And that's almost exclusively with the students we serve. That's 4 more people than they've ever met in their lives who are in the technology industry.
Stop. So the people who are in coding or on the path, they know 4 other people who have the same passion.
Exactly. You know,
Hold on.
Yeah.
Why is this important? Some of you heard me say this. Some of you know where I'm going. The opposite is if you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. So the opposite is also true. If you hang around 4 coders or 5 coders or 9 coders, you're likely to be someone who codes.
This is what the Code Nation team has taught me, is in addition to economic capital, which is so important, what you were talking about here, there's social capital. There's social capital. And the students we serve at Code Nation largely lack the social capital to access jobs in tech. And that's a lot of what we're providing them. And so, yes, how do you code is part of it, but the fact that there are jobs available to you in computer science would not have been something that they would have been exposed to. What's the dress code look like? What are the social norms when you show up in the office? How do you prepare a code sample? What would it be like to go to an interview? These are all things that we work with our students on, and 67% of the students that go through our program end up as coders. And in the schools we serve, typically 0% of the graduates end up in jobs in tech without that. So I think, long story short, I think in order to solve this big opportunity for people and the country, the other thing is our economy cannot grow the way it needs if we do not have lots and lots more coders. We have over 1 million open jobs in this country for computer scientists. Over 1 million unfilled jobs in this country right now. Over 1 million.
Unfilled jobs?
Unfilled jobs.
Of careers with $60,000 a year probably or more?
We are hiring people outside the United States, left, right, and center, not because we don't want to hire them in the United States, but because we simply can't access the talent. In many other countries, it is a core curriculum in the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools to learn coding. And it's not the case yet in the United States. So our economy can't grow if we don't solve this. There's so much untapped potential in so many places. And to solve it, it's going to take the private sector and the public sector working together. It's going to take collaboration. We've got to find ways to work with the public schools. It can't only be charter schools. It can't only be private schools. You've got to find ways to work with the public school system, and you've got to find ways to engage the private sector as partners.
And Van Jones, our friend Van Jones, has gotten his own nonprofit called Yes We Code. He's passionate about this topic. There are a number of people of color who are pursuing this, trying to bridge this gap. But I think that if you got your hands around technology and your hands around financial literacy, you've got a golden ticket in the success in life, irrespective of racism, bias, police brutality, and other things that are trying to hold you back. You can punch right through it or drive right around it if you got these 2 things on your side. I don't understand why every school is not teaching a course in financial literacy and a course in computer sciences as a pathway out of poverty. We got to connect education to aspiration. Now, one thing I found really odd about this interview, which is positively odd, and it builds on what Alan was just saying from Fortune, is I came out here and did all this blah, blah, blah about your for-profit company, which has made you rich and wealthy and gave you financial freedom and whatever, and everybody knows it, and we all think that there's a bunch of people crocheting, and you came out here and you've been babbling nonstop about your broke nonprofit that you probably fund yourself. I don't even notice that. He's talking about the nonprofit he chairs. That's what he's passionate about. That's one of the things he's passionate about.
Very passionate about it.
And I love
that.
That
is also a really important pathway to economic empowerment. You just got me started because you started talking about software engineering as a path to middle class. You can't say those words without me spending 5 minutes. You just can't.
I love it. So
but
let's talk about
Etsy's also an important, the through line for both is economic empowerment. How do we provide people with more of a life of choice, a life of opportunity? And Etsy does that for a lot of people. So we've got about 5 million sellers.
5 million.
About 5 million right now. Last time we reported, it's more than that now. But last time we reported about 5 million sellers. We've got about 100 million buyers. And they're on
100
track.
million buyers are somebody who purchases on the site?
Someone who purchases on the site, about 100
Me and
million
my wife
people.
are keeping you in business every week.
Really appreciate it.
Yep.
You and your wife and a bunch of other people. And this, we're on track to do, call it $12 billion of sales. Our sellers are on track to sell about $12 billion.
Back. What did you just say?
Yeah, sellers are going to sell about $12 billion of product this year on Etsy.
You're doing $12 billion in revenue?
Well, our sellers are selling $12 billion.
$12 billion
that's
is
their
flowing through
revenue.
Etsy.
We measure our success by the size of the pie.
Yeah.
And the size of the pie is how much do our sellers sell. We take a small percent. We take 5% as Etsy's commission. But our sellers, they're selling $12 billion of product this year.
You're doing $12 billion worth of pass-through revenue. I'm getting your home number, your home address. I'm hanging out with you on weekends. I'm gonna have an ankle bracelet connected to you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm sticking you to like glue. And you're helping the small entrepreneur, that small business owner, to come up on the Etsy platform. So you're connecting high tech with high touch too.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So let me paint a little picture of our average seller. She might knit. She might make products out of wood or metal or all kinds of things. Home furnishings, clothing, jewelry, paper goods, craft supplies. Home furnishings is the number one category on Etsy. So be it paintings, be it coffee tables or beautiful handmade rugs or furniture. But pretty much if you can imagine it and it's not mass manufactured, we sell it, our sellers sell it on Etsy, 100 million items. That's, many, many Walmarts, if you want to think about the kind of the selection. It's hard to think of something which is not for sale. And 90% of our sellers are women. 91% are businesses of one, almost exclusively working from their home. About 5% of our sellers are Black, and if you put that in context, just under 1% of small business owners in the United States are Black. So we've got a lot of room to do better, but overrepresented in many categories, and it's something we work really hard on. And why is that? Look, immigration is not what's changing the nature of work in this country, and trade is not what's changing the nature of work in this country. Automation is changing the nature of work. We actually manufacture more stuff in this country now than we did 30 years ago, despite what some politicians want to tell you. It just takes fewer people.
Okay.
Robots do most of the work.
What Sam Altman was talking about.
And I disagree with Sam that creativity is easily automated. He said something about, robots are good at art and music, and we may beg to differ there. They might be acceptable in a boy band kind of way, but I'm not sure it's music I want to listen to. So, look, creativity can't be automated, and the opportunity to take your creative passion and turn that into a global business you can run from your living room is more relevant now than it's ever been. And if you look on the buyer side, we are bombarded in a sea of sameness, where we have the opportunity to buy an infinite amount of stuff that arrives cheap and arrives fast and is in a landfill 2 seconds later. And it looks the same as your neighbor, and it doesn't feel good owning it, and it doesn't come with a story. And, oh, I like that rug. Where'd you get it? I got it on Amazon. End of the story. I like that rug. Where'd you get it? I got it on Etsy. Let me tell you about this seller in Gee's Bend, Alabama, and her family have been hand knitting rugs for 5 generations. And I had a conversation with her, as she was making the rug for me, and we talked about the fabric she was using and why her family uses this colors, and it's an entirely different experience for the buyer and for the seller. And I think, people more and more, they're craving, they want to put their money where their heart is. And for sellers, when you think about a path to entrepreneurship, becoming a small business owner has typically been an all-in, high-risk endeavor. I'm going to sign a lease, often for multiple years on Main Street. I'm going to invest in raw materials. I'm going to make my product. I'm going to design it with a certain set of colors at a certain price. I'm going to open my doors, and I'm going to hope for the best. And my family is in for 100 grand or something by the time I'm done with that. Not many people have that kind of capital, even if it's 20 grand. Not that many people have that kind of capital. If it doesn't succeed, the family's in trouble. You can open a shop on Etsy for 20 cents.
What?
It costs 20 cents to open a shop on Etsy.
20 cents?
20 cents. $1 if you want to list 5 products. But it's 20 cents an item. You list it on Etsy, and if it sells, you list the next one, and you take the revenue and you use that to make the next product. And in the meantime, you're learning what kinds of products work, what colors do people want? Do they want it in short sleeve or long sleeve? How much are they willing to pay for it? What's the right photography to use? And these are things you can learn for pennies. And you might do it, you know, many of our sellers do, in your spare time while you keep your day job, so you haven't bet the entire farm on an idea that may or may not work. And then as you become successful, as your business builds, you invest more and more time in your business, you have more capital to do that, and then you might scale back on your other endeavors. But it's often it's certainly a less capital intensive way and often a less risky way to become an entrepreneur.
You know, it strikes me that when I talk about social justice through an economic lens, I'm not talking about the $50 billion commitments of corporations to social justice. That's incredibly important. I'm talking about these stories. I'm talking about Shopify and what they did with this $30 million commitment to create 1 million new black businesses in America. And a year later, we see examples of that come out on stage trying to grow their platform to the next level. And I'm thinking about, I mean, if we just focused on the Shopify model and your model alone, we could probably get to the 1 million black businesses without involving anybody else, given the robustness of your platform and how much opportunity it is for so little investment. And it's where the people can touch it. It's where people feel it's relatable. And where people, I mean, your story, the story of the foundation work you're doing, and the story of Etsy is inspirational to the average person, and you are a great advocate for it, ambassador, because you're relatable, because your own story is one of struggle, as you mentioned. I think you'll appreciate what I'm about to say. A text message came in the last session. I thought I wanted to wait to say it with you. Remember the young lady that was out here that we committed to help back? What's the number I told you? It was $70,000. Somebody committed another 20? Sorry, 90. So I get a text here, not from some huge corporation, not from some billionaire, which we'll accept that too. I'm just telling you how relatable this is, how everybody can help. I get a text from Regina Benjamin, who some of you would know was the U.S. Surgeon General for the United States of America, a government employee at one point who went on to run a nonprofit in Mississippi, helping society. She was so inspired by what we did on the stage, what that young lady did earlier, that she committed on text message $15,000 of her own money to back that initiative. And if you think about how far $15,000 would go in starting businesses on Etsy, 20 cents at a time. I mean, you could really make an impact helping somebody to learn teaching them how to fish at scale, giving them dignity and personal responsibility and self-sustain and the dignity of some financial freedom by being able to chart their own course. Is this one of the things that drives you to keep growing this?
Absolutely. I mean, we have tens of thousands of shops sign up every month. And
tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands per month. And so it's obviously a really self-serve model. We make it so simple that, often 11 and 12-year-olds are setting up shops themselves and getting going in business. It's a fun way to start to learn about business, but we have a lot of material out there, videos and stuff that show people how to do it, and the costs are so low that cost is not really a barrier. But we have been partnering with nonprofits now to figure out how to go conquer some of the other barriers. So some of the sellers we really want to serve may not have access to a bank account, may not have access to a credit card, may not have access to a laptop at home, may not have access to good internet access. And so thinking about how we can partner to help bridge those gaps, to help everyone access this new economy, we think is really important. So one example is I mentioned Gee's Bend, Alabama, but there's a wonderful group of quilters in Gee's Bend, Alabama. Maybe some of you are familiar with them. That's a craft that goes back quilting for many, many, many generations in that community. And so we partnered with an organization called Nest, and we funded going into Gee's Bend and working with these quilters to get them onto Etsy. And it's not that it's so hard to get onto Etsy, but they had some of the other issues I spoke about that we can help with. And then we highlighted them on the site. And you know, lots of people want to buy from the Gee's Bend quilters in Alabama.
That's right.
So now in Gula, South Carolina, there's basket weavers, and that's another craft that is wonderful and has been handed down from generation to generation. So we've done that with the weavers in South Carolina. And again, buyers want to shop. They want to put their money where their heart is. They want to buy beautiful, handcrafted things that come with a story and that support other people. So we see that, to your point, and the whole theme of this, it's not just good for society, it's good business.
Josh could have mailed this in. He could have. Now, there are people who wanted to be here who couldn't, and schedules permitted. Josh could have mailed this in or said, I can't come because of the pandemic or the Delta variant. And by the way, we kept this is normally, as you know, we normally have 5,000 delegates. We kept it to a minimum so that we believe, safe. We didn't encourage speakers to come. We allowed them to do it virtually. Last year was all virtually. 90% of our speakers decided they wanted to show up in person. Josh said, I'm coming to Atlanta. Thank you, Josh Silverman, for coming to Atlanta. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Silverman.
Hi, my name is Wendy Lowe, and I'm the CEO of Faith and STEAM, LLC. Children need to learn about science, technology, engineering, agriculture, art, and math. That's what the STEAM stands for. I've known about Operation Hope for a little while. I'm a member of the Atlanta Black Chambers, and a person from Operation Hope came on one of our Tuesday morning calls and talked about Operation Hope. I've been working on my book. That was my main focus, and I'm like, okay, I have to get this business plan done. And I really didn't want to work on my business plan because it's kind of intimidating to do that. And I said, you know what, let me just sign up for this class so it'll push me to get this business plan done. I enrolled in the Entrepreneurs Training Program, and Mr. Pierre, Mackenzie Pierre was my teacher, and he was excellent. I did my lean business plan in the class. I really liked the way the class was taught. It was very unique. Instead of just going by the book, which a lot of times people do, I worked with him to fix my budget and to get a better understanding of how I can move my finances forward. I know that it's very important to have a high credit score because it goes into your developing your business credit. I think that the 1MBB program is important because people need to understand that they can do more than just be an employee. More Black people that have businesses, then they can employ their own. And unfortunately, we have a lot of Black businesses, but they're mom and pops. We need to get to the next level where we scale our businesses to where we can have employees. And that's something that's going to be hard to do on your own. You're going to need resources. And so when you participate in this program, and you're exposed to different opportunities, then that can help your business grow. And as your business grows and scales, then you can help your community grow. One of the things that's really important for me is to create generational wealth. I have 3 children, and generational wealth will be created when we're owning homes and we're owning businesses.
Well, thank you for your patience this evening, but you're in for a real treat now. We're about to bring out 2 legends, one from the world of entertainment and one from the entire world. I want you all to stand up and welcome to the stage international award-winning actor, producer, and comedian Chris Tucker, and the iconic deputy of Dr. King, UN ambassador, and former mayor of Atlanta, Ambassador Andrew Young, and of course, John Hope Bryant.
Come on now, give him some love.
You push over.
Give him some love now. I'm not paying him, see, I give him some love. I'm not giving him no money.
I'm glad you told me to sit here, Ambassador Young, because I got on white socks. I don't want nobody to see my socks.
At least you got on
Stop,
socks.
man, I don't want him to see it.
But let me just say, this is wonderful.
But Chris
no,
Rock,
no. This is wonderful.
No, hold on.
We got to start with, when they talked about G's Bend, you know that's where the march from Selma to Montgomery started.
Is it?
G's Bend, Alabama, the same women that have been making quilts in slavery. See, it was their families that showed up like us. They showed up in Selma on the wrong day. And that's why Dr. King wasn't there. Dr. King was back in his church on that Bloody Sunday because we had scheduled it for the next Sunday. But it got confused, and we went on and did it anyway. And so I just want to thank you for connecting all that is going on today with these women who've been making quilts for at least 100 years. And you really, you know, that's why I've been trying to tell him, get him to see, he ain't this smart.
He ain't this smart.
You know, but the Lord can make a way out of no way.
Nowhere.
And
he used to be Jamie Foxx stand-in.
I'm
so proud of you now.
And you used to come in after Chris Rock.
I will tell you, we were in Davos, a conference, like the biggest conference in the world, in the snow, arguing, fussing. He was calling me Chris Rock, and I was calling him Jamie Foxx. We almost got the blows. I said, I don't care where we at, man. Don't call me no Chris Rock no more. This is my buddy.
Then I went to go get on Delta, and he got on his private jet, and that was the end of the conversation.
That wasn't my jet. See, then I'm gonna teach you financial smartness. Get a friend with a jet, a friend with a yacht, a friend with an extra, extra part of his house you can stay in. You ain't gotta get no house. Not this day and time. You're gonna learn something today. A guest house.
But here's the thing, I've learned a whole lot. Now, I need to find that lady that had them zip-up pants for folks.
Look, I'm just glad they worked. I was really concerned.
I don't know, but I came close because I was sitting here I've been sitting here since about 7 o'clock and listening to all of this, and I was drinking water. And then all of a sudden it hit me. And I got on my scooter and I ran around. I just barely made it. But if I'd had them 2 zippers going down there. No, I'm telling you, this is very, very practical. And all of y'all gonna get old. If you're lucky.
Oh my God.
If you're lucky and get your shots, keep your mask on. You'll be around for a long time.
That's right.
Because that artificial intelligence he talked about?
Sam Altman, yeah.
Yeah, I saw them, I read about them. They can put this artificial intelligence and nanotechnology. And so they can get a little something and they can put it in your vein, and the automatic technology or the auto technology will run that little thing up your veins into your heart, and they won't have to cut you open to do fix your heart. They get a little nanotechnology thing, and it'll crawl up, do what it's got to do, and then crawl right back out. And that's who you had up here.
Yeah.
People talking about where we are going and what we have to do to get there. And how'd you figure out you come from
all the way from Compton.
You come from Compton and you this smart? But I know your secret. I've been backstage with your mama and your mother-in-law and your wife. And you have had sense enough to surround yourself or to be surrounded by brilliant, beautiful women.
That's the truth.
Amen.
See?
Look at my mother clapping.
And John, do they know you was a dancer on Soul Train?
What is this, like a roast?
No, it's the truth. I didn't know it for 10 years.
No,
He
you've
just
been-
told me last week. No,
Yeah.
tell him about it. Tell him about it.
I'll tell you about it.
Oh, a great dancer. Look at it. Wow! Whoa! You okay? Call the ambulance. I think he broke something.
No, don't drink water now. It'll come out right out. I mean, that's supposed to strain on your groin, and you had a long
I
time.
don't know. No man that could do that. That was incredible. No, that was great, man. No,
What else you got to say?
We just messing with you. No, we just messing with you. Now it's your turn now.
So, first of all, in all seriousness, it's wonderful that we're talking about AI in the future.
T.I.? You talking about T.I.?
With T-
Is he?
Woo!
All right.
I'm gonna have to dumb this conversation down a little bit.
Oh, wait a minute now. I went to Columbia High School.
By the way, on a serious note, Chris Tucker is one of the smartest. I mean, he's funny, all that stuff. But on a serious note, when I went to Africa, there was Chris with President Clinton. When I went to Switzerland, one of 5 black people at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, every year, sitting there taking it all in for 10 years straight. Chris Tucker. This dude he really don't sleep on how smart this guy is. He's much more than a brilliant comedian and a brilliant actor.
Thank you.
So on a serious note.
I'll pay you tomorrow. I'll pay you.
But you know, comedy makes the world go round.
Well,
That's right.
comedy makes the world go round.
It does. It really
So before we get into this interactive conversation and before Ambassador Young takes it wherever he wants to take it, I think it is 2 things. One, it put chills down my spine to be talking about the future and AI and all this in the same ballroom where you and Dr. King talked about the future of eradicating poverty with the Poor People's Campaign before he was assassinated. And I often ask you, Ambassador Young, why are you up so late all night? Carolyn Young, who's here, makes sure that you're taken care of, and she loves you into health every day. But I often worry, why are you running yourself so hard? Why do you give all your money away to others? And allow me to say this, because he's on that balcony when Dr. King was assassinated. I think it was April 4th, 1968. And when I asked him about giving away his money, Chris, he'll say it's not my money.
That's why I ain't got none.
But he would say, well, I'm here because my friend was assassinated. Because, by the way, the FBI report on the shooter was, if you miss the dreamer, kill the strategist. So he's known this in the back of his mind his whole life, that I'm mayor because my friend got shot. I'm UN ambassador because my friend got shot. I'm mayor of the city, I'm head of the Olympic Games because my friend got shot. I got this board position because my friend got shot. In other words, if he didn't get shot, he would have got shot, and he wouldn't be here. So he says, it's not mine, I'm just a trustee. I'm just giving it away, and I want to help as many people as I can, as long as I can. Do you know this man has 130 honorary doctorate degrees?
Wow.
130. This is the closest. Nelson Mandela's grandson is here. Zonwin Mandela, he's on our board. He's here. Came here for Africa. He didn't come here for me. He came here for him. This is the closest you'll get to Nelson Mandela in the world. And he's right here in front of you.
But let me just...
No, stop. Hold on a minute. You're going to take it over in a minute.
I want to tell you what happened that night.
Okay.
When we were here.
All right.
Because Aretha Franklin was singing.
Here.
Yeah, supposed to be singing. But something happened with her and one of her boyfriends. And she was saying she was not going to sing. And who arose but Martin Luther King, the comedian.
Wow.
And they came to get me. Dr. King, you got to come up and talk to Reed. She's talking about, and he went up to the room and said, Reed, baby, now you can't be thinking about jumping down this hotel and messing up these white folks' lobby. They just let us in here. He said, come on now. We've been fighting all along to get in here, and you going to cry your way. Come on, get it together. And she was really depressed. But that brought her out of it. And what she did was she picked up an ashtray and threw it at him, and fortunately he ducked. But that broke her depression.
Yeah.
And he said, you better come on down here and sing, baby. Everybody's here to see you. And she sang from about 8 o'clock to about 11 o'clock.
Wow.
And guess who was waiting to be the main speaker? Sidney Poitier.
Wow.
And so Sidney Poitier gets up at 11 o'clock, and he said, I don't care how long you all made me wait, I was not leaving here. He said, because the last time I was here, I was in the bus station. I was a barefoot boy that had picked strawberries and tomatoes and everything from Miami all the way up the road to Atlanta. And we were supposed to get paid and then get the bus to go back to Miami and then come back up and pick peaches the next time. He said, and I sat there and I said, but I want to go to New York because I'm going to be an actor. And he said, I couldn't talk. I had a speech impediment. I didn't have any decent clothes. I had the clothes I've been picking beans with all the way up. He said, and I sat there and I went to sleep. And he said, I woke up when somebody said, bus for New York. He said, and without thinking, I jumped up and got on that bus. And he said, somebody told him that they needed a janitor at Actor Studio. And he went there as the janitor, and he met Marlon Brando and Harry Belafonte and all of that group of actors that we all came to know, and he was the janitor. But he said they took an interest in him. And at first they just let him do walk-on parts and things, but he said that he would sit in front of the television set and try to speak like the announcer, because he had to get rid of his speech impediment because he was determined to be an actor.
Sidney Poitier.
Sidney Poitier.
Wow.
Started here as a raggedy boy from Cat Island in the Bahamas. So you all in a place of destiny.
You know, when T.I., who's graced this stage with us, and he's supportive of what we're doing, when he's around Ambassador Young, he gets serious. You don't. But no.
Well, I'm going to tell you why, because Ambassador Young is funnier than me. He's just a comedian, just like...
Yeah, that's actually true.
I mean, he keeps me laughing. He actually told me that we're coming out here, we're gonna rag on you. And I said, good, I've been wanting to say this stuff in public the whole time. So he gave me free range. You know, I wouldn't have said that. I'm too scared.
Yeah, you ain't scared of nothing. That's one thing I love you.
But this is one of my good friends, one of my buddies, one of the smartest guys I know. He's talking about me. And that's one thing I do. I don't know much, but I know to hang around smart people. And John Bryan is a smart brother, good brother. Do anything for you. Every time you talk to him, can I do anything for you, brother? That's the first thing he say. Can I do something for you? And just a good-hearted guy, and I see why you're so successful.
You can get me some stock in that lady that got them long drawers.
That's right, John. Let's come out of this thing with some money. Help a brother out.
I ain't playing the dozens with you, but I was sitting with your mama, and she was sitting... Because she's almost as old as me. How old is your mama?
Huh?
How old is your mama? Huh?
87.
Well, see, I'm 89, so she had to look up to me. But Together, we all, and all of y'all are going to soon know what it's like to wet your pants. So you better get with this sister and invest in it, because that's one thing. Peeing on yourself is universal.
Oh my God! The North American Nelson Mandela. When I have, I'm trying to return this to some level of seriousness.
Why you gotta be so serious?
Well, why not? So, Chris,
they're gonna remember what I say.
That's right. That's right.
You get serious, they won't remember.
won't
Go
that's
ahead.
true.
Keep up the flow.
Keep it going.
I'm with you.
Don't slow us down.
But I do want to get at least a minute of seriousness in before we wrap.
It's serious.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
Yeah.
And get you off of me. No, so when I talk to you, Chris, and Ambassador Young late at night, what people don't know, and it's just like talking, Tommy Dortch is here somewhere, chairman of 100 Black Men. It's like my conversation with him. It's never about themselves. Huh?
Nothing. He owed me $10.
Yeah, he owes me 20. But he's never talking about himself. You're never talking about yourself. He's never talking about himself. And people may not realize this about you. You're always talking about, in your private moments, things that matter. And to your point, what you said about me, the only time Chris has ever asked me for something is for money for his foundation to help those less unfortunate. And he comes here, again, for free. He gave his time tonight. It's not like he's not busy. He gave his time tonight. He's done this several times. He's always saying yes for the right cause. And again, digging in his pocket and asking his friends to support his foundation for a golf tournament, which you use for your foundation. Why do you care so much, Chris? What's this in your bones? We understand Ambassador Young's story.
Yeah.
What is it that causes you to care so much, and why are you so serious about business as a mechanism for social
Well, I'll
justice?
tell you, today life is a mystery, man. Today I was looking at pictures. I took a lot of great trips to Africa early in my career, and one of them was with Colin Powell, and a lot of them was with Ambassador Young. I was looking at these pictures today. I've been to Tanzania. Ambassador Young took me to Nigeria, Lagos, Abuja, Ethiopia. He's taken me all over the world, and I've been blessed to take these great trips. And one of them was with Colin Powell, because I was looking for those pictures, and I found all these other pictures. And I said, oh man, I got to remind Ambassador Young, tell him, how much I appreciate it. All these great opportunities that God blessed me with great men like Ambassador Young. Just say, come on, tag along with me. And I learned a lot. It broadened my perspective, because my whole thing was just be the biggest comedian in the world, biggest actor in the world, get $20 million, and you good. But I did that at an early age, and I was like, is this it? This is kind of boring. And I started taking these trips, and I started seeing how blessed we were in America, and I started seeing how less fortunate some other people were in other countries with their water supply being ruined because an animal died in Ethiopia or Tanzania. And I was like, man, there's more to the world than just acting or being whatever. So it really shook me, man. It just brought I knew it was other things more important than making a lot of money. So my mom said, you do all these trips, you've done all these trips, why don't you start a foundation and do what you want to do too to help people? So I started a Chris Tucker Foundation because my mom said, start a foundation, because she saw what my heart was, traveling all over the world, Africa and all these different places, 14 different countries in Africa. And man, best thing I ever done in my life was begging rich people for money, because the reward, when you see the things, yesterday I gave $10,000 to a lady who has houses for sex trafficking, girls has been sex trafficked, and I gave $10,000 for it so they can build another house, because all year I've been asking my friends, raising money, and it feels so good to be able to do that and to help people. And then I'll see something on the news. I flew a woman from Jamaica who was in a bad car accident. Her husband or boyfriend died. She didn't know it, but her kids, and I was on the road on tour, her kids, it was all on the news in Rochester, New York somewhere. And I said, called my sister and told her, find out this news channel, call them. I want to fly her home. We got a plane because God blessed me to be able to raise money from friends and from Coca-Cola gives money. Everybody, Delta gives money. And I was able to get her home, you know, on a private jet back to her family because I got a foundation. I recommend everybody starts a foundation. It's the greatest feeling in the world to be able to help somebody and just don't even think about it. And then everybody who gives, I tell my friends, you blessed. You blessed because you gave yesterday too.
I did?
You know, yeah, that was part of your money that you gave me for the foundation. And that's what I tell my friends, and I love saying that, man, God's gonna bless you. He's like, what, why? Man, I just gave $10,000 over here and gave $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever. But I learned a lot of that from Ambassador Young, my other daddy, because he's done so much, you know, in the world. And
yeah, but you got to be honest. Your mom was a preacher.
Yes, that's true. That's true. My mother's a missionary, Mary Tucker.
That's right. And,
Church of God in Christ.
And she raised you on your knees.
That's right, praying.
That's right. And if you didn't get on your knees, she went across your behind.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
You pray still, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I pray every day. I pray an hour a day when I'm not rushing out of the house. I got a prayer closet built in my mama's house. I get on my knees before I do anything because I don't want to make no mistakes. I said, God, I'm going to pray to you first and you'll guide me. And that's how I found all these great pictures. That all these trips I took over the years, you haven't seen me a lot in the movies, but I've done some great things. I'm like the black James Bond. Y'all don't even know it. But like we talk about Davos, but being able to, they can, you know, I can never forget, they can never take these trips I've had with Ambassador Young. I always have that in my heart, in my memories with such a great man. It's just God has just blessed me. But we got more movies coming, more stuff coming. I'm gonna take it over again. Don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. You don't lose it. You just, you know, you just keep it.
I was talking to Chris one day, and I said, you have a great home. And he said, I'm homeless, actually. I said, well, what do you mean you have this beautiful mansion that's dang near half a block? What do you mean you're homeless? He said, no, I'm homeless. I live with my mama.
That's my mama's house, yeah.
What are you talking about? You live with your mama? You're a multi-millionaire, global, you know, entertainer, global movie star, global, you're even smart. I have to admit it, you're even smart. And what do you mean you're homeless? Because I bought my mama that house, and I stay in it. That's how beautiful this guy's spirit is.
Thank you.
Is that's his, even though he built it and it was his money and his riches, he basically said, I would be nothing if not for my mother. So that's her house. And she lets me stay there. And every Sunday, where's he at? At church with his mother, if he's not on the road. These are the stories you don't hear about people, about who they really are.
Well, but if it's not your mama, it's your grandmama.
Yeah.
And if it's not your grandmama, it's your wife.
Yeah.
And if it's not your wife, it's your sister. But women make the world go round.
That's true. That's true.
So, Carolyn Young, Carolyn is a great backbone for Ambassador Young.
Give it up for Mrs. Young.
Yes.
Mrs. Young.
And she's also really, really, really funny. You think Ambassador Young's funny? She's really funny. And I can't tell her jokes in public. So you just have to trust me that she's really funny and a really good person. She won't mind me telling this story because she has nothing but love for every part of Ambassador Young's life. But you guys we got to end this with you knowing something about Ambassador Young that he's not in control of, because he's in control of everything. He's the UN ambassador, appointed, minted, first black UN ambassador in the history of the United States of America. They go to a little town in the South where his late wife, Jean Child Young, who's passed on to glory, is from her town. And they're in the town, and they're on this car with the open top. And Ambassador Young is a celebrity, so he's waving, and he's waving, and he's waving. And finally, Jean Child turns and points. Well, Andy, see that man over there? He was my boyfriend growing up. And Ambassador Young said, what, that bum over there? He's clearly not done very well for himself. He's a bum. And see, Jean, see who you could have married? And Jean said, Andy, if I'd married that man, he'd be UN ambassador for the United States of America.
That ain't funny. But then she really trained me and wore me out for 40 years. And then she found Carolyn and turned me over to Carolyn. And she's been beating up on me for the last 25 years. And her mama came to live with us, and she was there. And now we got a crazy old dog that wants to put me out of my bed. But that's all right. That's all right. I'm going to make it.
Love is work.
I never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread.
That's right.
Have you guys enjoyed today? First time, we're out of time. We've exceeded the clock. This is the first time all of us been out in 2 years. So we having a bit of a love party here. Well, I'm going to keep a promise that pastors know well. Be good, be quick, and then be gone. So we're about to let you go because you never want to be the old guy in the club. We're going to let you go home. And I'm going to let Ambassador Young close us out as only he knows how. And Chris, why don't you say your final words, and we'll turn it over to him. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this return, this beginning of the return to some normalcy in our lives. Over the rounded to it, we're going to get through it. Not even, as my wife would call it, an invisible monster like COVID is going to keep us down. We are going to rise again and meet the moment.
Yeah.
Chris?
I just thank you guys for having this here, John. Thank you for having this conference here. It's so important. Like I told you, I go to a lot of them. I go to Mike Milken's conference. Went to Clinton's conference in Davos. That's where you learn the best stuff. You meet the great people. So you guys take advantage of this. And thank you, man. God bless you. You're in good hands. Good hands.
Love you, man.
But before we close, let's give thanks to General Colin Powell.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let's thank the Lord.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord.
For raising him up in the Bronx from Jamaican parents and helping him to get through City College in New York. And he came down here as a lieutenant in Fort Benning, Georgia. But then he spent 2 terms in Vietnam. Not as a general, but he won the Purple Heart twice. And that's because he got wounded. And so one of the reasons why his body was not able to struggle with this virus is the sacrifice of his body for most of his 84 years in the service of this nation. And he was a warrior that made war to create peace. And he did it. And he continued doing it. And he's one of 3 people that I have admired all my life, practically. And first was Ralph Bunche, who we don't know much about, but Ralph Bunche gave us the United Nations. It came out of his brain. And he was a boy so poor when he got to Los Angeles that he couldn't ride. He wouldn't waste a nickel on the streetcar. He ran down with his grandmama to get into school, a public school in Los Angeles, and became the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, and really wrote most of the stuff that helps keep the world together today. And of course, you know Martin Luther King. And I was sitting there with him on the veranda, and the shot rang out. And it was obvious that He didn't even hear it. It cut through the tip of his chin and severed his spinal cord. So his body probably felt no pain. But my reaction was, damn, you can't go to heaven and leave us in hell. You can't do that. And I realize now, 58 years later, that he really didn't. He's still with us. And we are here where he was 50, 60 years ago. And we're carrying on that work, and it's no accident that G's Ben and Etsy are still with us, still feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, healing the sick, and setting at liberty those who are oppressed. And God has blessed us with the ability to keep on keeping on. So take your blessings and go home and get down on your knees and thank God for them. And then wake up in the morning and keep on spreading them all over this planet.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And go Braves, go Braves. Braves won tonight. 3-0, baby.
On behalf of Ambassador Young and Carolyn Young and myself and Shatra Dalton Bryant and even Chris Tucker, have a good evening. The night
We love you. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. It was so good to be back with you all, but we're just getting started. We have a very big day for you tomorrow. We'll see you back in the Hyatt at 9 a.m. Eastern and on the air at 10 Eastern. Thank you all for a great night, and thank you so much. What a way to end the evening. God bless.